Welcome everybody to the World GT Championship Season 10.
We are 10 weeks down and just 2 more weeks to go here in Season 10 of the World GT Championship, presented to you by 3M. And what a venue we have come to. We were last out, we were at Suzuka. Today, we are respecting the bumps at Sebring International Raceway. Hello everybody, my name is Paul Smith. Joining me this week, special guest commentator Arjuna Kankipati. And Arjuna, you've been watching from the wings this series. It's been a heck of a series so far.
I mean, it's GT3 racing, isn't it, Paul? Always puts on a show. But here at the bumps of Sebring, who's got the most compliant car? Who's got the fastest car? That's the crucial question with just two race weekends, I should say, left in this championship.
Absolutely. So today, it's been a long old season, that's for sure. Today we're at Sebring for one of our feature rounds, which is two 40-minute races with a mandatory pit stop for each. And we do have a reverse grid draw to do between the two races. You will not miss a thing here on RaceSpotTV. There you see the rest of the championship. We started out in Australia, went to America, the UK, had our little European jaunt at the Red Bull Ring, Hockenheim, Spa, headed back over to the States for Belle Isle, before then Kent in the UK, Motegi and Suzuka, our Japanese trip, and now we're over to the US again before we head on over to Monza for the final of the World GT Championship. And here is how the championship standings are at the moment. It is Ross McFarlane, your current Season 9 champion, who is leading this season. Kaya Koshube in second place by 69 points. David Baker not that far behind either is David, in third place. Then it's Phil Dennis. Never write him out of a championship. Aaron Rose for Luxim 24 Esports in fifth place with Alex Neller. Matt Turnbull, Josh Thompson, Michael Evdoka and Jack Sedgwick rounding out the top 10. For your Pro-Ams, it is Mike Horder who leads this one ahead of Max Wolf. Tim Perry is in third place, in third place ahead of Billy Fletcher, with Chris Van Der Ness, Ben Gregory, Elliot Harper, Adam Hedgecock, Christian Rose and Lars van Rijn rounding out your Pro-Am standings, which is pretty close, it must be said. Am Championship is another close run thing. We've got Ryan Hamilton leading that one ahead of Paul Webster. Lee Berridge, who is actually missing this week, he's on his jaunts, he's in third place ahead of Andy Archer. Michael Blake, John Roberts, Tom Stevens, Toby Ward, Chris Byram and Brandon Hulse rounding out your top 10 of AM. Get my words out, Paul. Team standings then, it is Pure Sim Esports who just lead that championship by that 48-point margin over 3M by Williams in XBS. The Pure Sims Craig Setup Shop outfit in third ahead of then the Pro-Am Championship leaders Boosted Virage. What a season they are having out there. But close on their tails. Not so much Pure Sim SimLab, who are in 5th overall. Evo SR, they're not actually that far away in terms of the Pro-Am Team Championship either. 3 Spires Motorsport then in 7th ahead of Luxim 24 Esport, BS Competition, and then Simortal round out the top 10. And we can say congratulations to Elliot Harper, who takes away this season's Enduro Cups Championship. He is the winner of the 4 endurance races, and that means he gets himself a Simortal model of his car and a £40 store credit for free. So congratulations to Elliot. Ross McFarlane gave it a good go, but missed out on that after the incident at Suzuka. Mike Horder rounding out the top 3. So that is how things stand at the moment here, Arjuna, in the championship. It is incredibly close. Pro-Am, Am, and the Teams Championships all really close together. This is going to go down to the wire.
And of course, 2 40-minute races here today, and then our sprint races to close things off. And the sprint races, I should say, really, really hectic. So if the championship comes down to the wire, expect it to come down to that final race of the weekend, the final race of the season as well. And with the reverse grid, the spinny wheel that always likes to throw up some surprises, last time we saw the spinny wheel, chaos ensued. Will we see the same in 7 days' time? I hope so.
Well, we'll see the spinning wheel tonight as well between our 2 races to decide the grid order for the second of tonight's races. Today, it's all about qualifying for this first race. Qualifying is ongoing at the moment, and I could tell you currently in qualifying it is Phil Dennis, who's just gone to the top of the qualifying standing. So he's trying his best to get himself into that championship fight. Now, an interesting point with this championship, for all these drivers, this is the last round that is eligible for a drop score. That final week does not count towards a drop score because we decide who is a champion next week. So really, you either want a really good round today, or if you're going to have a bad one, get it out the way now.
Yeah, make sure that you're heading into that last race weekend with no pressure. You want to make sure that you're not going to have the bad round there. But I think that really spices things up, Paul, and spices I've forgotten the phrase, so I'm going to make sure I don't bumble it right there. But variety is so crucial, right? And when you head to a final weekend like that where the pressure is on, that's when the cream rises to the top. And speaking of pressure, Dinez put that lap in with the checkered flag out in qualifying. That was his final attempt at a qualifying lap time, and he nailed it here at Sebring. And what a track we have in store for us here today. 2 40-minute races ready to go.
We have a few points of order as well before we start today's action. A few drivers have got themselves a few penalties. There are a number of drivers with qualifying bans here today. Alex Davidson, Andy Archer, James Whitehouse, Kai Kashube, who actually isn't here today. Matt Bunn, Morgan Butler, Simon Field, Simon Neller, and Tony Draper, all with qualifying bans, which means that they're not allowed to go out onto the track and set themselves a lap time. So this could get a bit interesting for the start of this one, but let's roll the music and let us give you the starting grid for today's race. And it is Phil Dennis who is on pole position on that front row. Joining him, the championship leader, Ross McFarlane. Matt Turnbull and Josh Thompson share row number 2, with Billy Fletcher and Elliot Harper, your top 2 Pro-Ams, on row number 3. Row 4 for David Baker and Alex Neller, with Chris Wood and Adam Watson on row number 5. Row 6 is the Evo SR driver of Chris van der Ness, and Aaron Rose, that third Luxim 24 esports driver. Mike Horder and Michael Evdoka share row number 7, with Christian Rose and Max Wolf row number 8. Row number 9 then for Jason Dilworth and Brian Loynes. Row 10 for Ross Nicholson, and then your top AM driver on the grid here, Paul Webster for Simortal. That's a really good position for him to be. Row number 11 then for JB Masida and Ben Gregory. Row 12, Matt Woodhouse and Ryan Hamilton. Row 13 for Brendan Stacey and Anders Shield, Jonathan Walker and Tim Perry on row number 14, with Tom Stevens and Jeroen Kaiser rounding out row number 15. Row 16 of the grid is Craig Jones and John Roberts, with Michael Blake and Chris Byram on row number 17. Row 18 for Adam Hedgecock and Toby Ward. Then a few drivers who did not set a qualifying time because of their qualifying bans. Alex Davidson and Matt Bunn, with Tony Draper and Andy Archer, and all on his own on the back row of the grid. 41st out of 41 cars, James Whitehouse. We have a full pace lap here, Arjuna, so plenty of time for these drivers to get some heat into their brakes and to their tyres before the first lap here. But that first lap is still treacherous out here at this venue.
I mean, turn 1 is so fast and so frenetic in towards turn 2, that heavy braking zone. You can go side by side all the way from turns 3 through turn 4, under the bridge, and then into that heavy braking zone at the hairpin. So plenty of passing opportunities just in the first half of the lap here. And crucially, something you mentioned earlier, Paul, Keiko Shube not here today. He does have penalties yet to be served. If he decides to join us for the final race weekend, he'll have to serve those penalties in that final weekend. So it is looking like he's out of the title fight, 63 points behind Ross McFarlane. Can David Baker, Phil Denez challenge Ross McFarlane on the front row of this grid?
Well, I mean, you're looking at Phil Dennis and Ross McFarlane sharing that front row of the grid. The next nearest championship rival, David Baker on row number 4. He has very much been a steady away driver as David this season, getting himself points. He won the opening race of the championship at Phillip Island all those months ago. It feels like an eternity ago, does that? But he's not been able to get to the front of the field since then. And you know, he's just been that steady away driver, but that is very much what David Baker's MO is. He's very much a case of get those points, get himself a good, solid amount of points towards the championship, and keep out of trouble.
Also in the championship fight, I was just looking over our YouTube chat here, Paul. Lee Berridge not racing today because he's on holiday, so hopefully he's having a good time. Also means in that AM championship standings, Paul Webster going to be fighting it out. 16 points behind the championship leader there, so still plenty of intrigue across of our championships. In fact, the only one which is a little bit more wide open is Pro-Am, and we've seen Pro-Am drivers mix it up there with the pros over the course, not just of this season, but in past seasons as well. So much intrigue. Sebring is such a bumpy track as well. So difficult, even in a GT3 car where you have ABS to help slow you down. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Well, you look at it, Billy Fletcher and Elliot Harper, the two Luxim 24 esports drivers, sharing that third row of the grid, as we see the pace car driver there with his headset on. But two Luxim 24 esports drivers, both Pro-Am, both in 5th and 6th place, third row of the grid. That is a tremendous effort for two Pro-Ams there. And Chris Van Der Ness, 11th on the grid.
It just speaks to the quality of some of these Pro-Am drivers, right? And we've got some incredible pros. We've got World Championship level drivers in our pro category. So really, next season, I mean, we're not far away from the end of this one, and therefore looking forward to what lies ahead. Some of those drivers, they may get bumped up into the pro ranks next time around. So really keep your eye on the incredible field we have here, ready to go for 40 minutes of racing.
So then, there's the front row of the grid behind the Porsche 911 Cup car. And it is Phil Dennis and Ross McFarlane sharing that front row of the grid. Ross McFarlane thrives on the longer races here in this championship. Josh Thompson, some aggressive weaving from him on row number 2, but he's got Matt Turnbull, who's had a real turn of pace out there this season. Drivers head round Sunset Bend before they see the green flag, and it's all under the control of Phil Dennis. When does he go? He's waiting patiently. Now, does he go? Yes, he goes now. The green flag is in the air from Barney the Flagman, and we are underway for the first of 2 races here tonight in the World GT Championship. In towards turn number 1 they go. They're going 3, 4 wide through turn number 1. Will they all make it round there? I'll be amazed if they do make it cleanly through there. You'd think this was the start of a 15-minute sprint race, and that goes off. That's David Baker, one of our championship contenders. Hit off to the side of the road, touches the tyre wall. He has gone down to last place in this field as the rest of the field now charge through underneath the Corvette bridge, heading down towards the hairpin for the first time. Huge drama there, Arjuna, for one of our championship contenders.
And David, that's a big one. They're coming into the hairpin. They're still stacking up. Cars through the grass, calamity into the hairpin.
There's Ben Gregory involved in that. Your own Kaiser's involved in that. I feel that JB Masida may have been involved in that one as well. As they get back up underway, yes, it was JB Masida. He went spearing into Ben Gregory's Lamborghini, the 3 Spice Motorsport car. And well, we'll have a look at that later on as to what happened out there. But look at this grid. Look at this huge grid here for you today in the World GT Championship. 41 cars started, 41 cars still going. Now, importantly, for those cars that have been involved in incidents, there are one fast repair, one free repair for you. And if you're new to iRacing, that means that you can, for one time only, come onto pit lane and get your car completely repaired for free, no penalty time. And any damage after that occasion, you come down pit road, it costs you time.
Yeah, and of course with that mandatory pit stop, we'd expect those cars to try and make it until that point, get the fast repair done and dusted. I think there was another issue. That's Chris Van der Nest around through Sunset Bend. Such a tricky corner, especially in that rear-engine 911 GT3 Cup car. He'll drop to 24th position across the line. Out front, though, it is still Denez. Look at this, though. Aggressive driving from Thompson has gotten around Matt Turnbull. He's trying to now attack Ross McFarlane.
Thompson's pretty much out of any championship fight, and he has admitted as much. So he's been concentrating so much on the Porsche Tag Heuer Contender Series for next season's Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. So he's been focusing on that this season. That's why we've not been seeing him as much in this championship. But when he does turn up here, does Josh, my goodness, does he put the cat amongst the pigeons, and he really knows how to handle that BMW, even if he doesn't always get on with it.
BMW is a little bit of a divisive car because of its stature. It's a bit, low to the ground, heavy car, really handles a lot more like a tank than a traditional GT3 car. But interesting that you talk about his Contender Series appearances, because obviously that new 911 Cup car, which we do have on the iRacing service, it is effectively a GT3 Light. And when we saw that car debut in full metal action, which happened earlier this year, they were racing at Sebring in North America. Lap times very comparable between GT3 and that 911 Cup car. So I have a feeling it's not going to be too much of a difference for him, but obviously in that BMW M4, plenty of work to do, driving for, of course, those Williams Esports guys.
So Ben Gregory has taken a free repair and is all the way at the back of the field then, is all on his own, and but he's got a fresh car and he'll be hoping to try and salvage something out of this race, but he's got himself a bit of clear air. Alex Neller is fighting away with Adam Watson. It's Lamborghini versus Porsche, and it's the Porsche down the inside into Sunset Bend. Incredibly bumpy. The car's loaded up on the suspension, so it doesn't give you that much suspension travel around there. Such a tricky corner, and Adam Watson makes the move stick there, Arjuna.
Great move, and sometimes you get some interesting lines. Sunset Bend's not a one approach fits all mentality. You can very much try some different things around there, and so finding your best way through that corner is always important, and it's a place that the entry, it's so much more deceptive than you think, because you want to try and carry as much speed as possible, but if you run out wide, you get off onto the marbles. I've seen plenty of cars knock down that outside wall coming through that corner, so plenty of danger there, but still lots of time in this race to make passes happen. We're seeing a little bit more calm action out front than I would expect between those top 5 cars.
Oh, this is just everybody settling into the race here. This is your best opportunity to make up positions in the race here, and Adam Watson's already gained 3 spots in this race so far. Michael Evdoka up 5 positions in the top 10. Ross Nicholson as well in SimSticker's car up 5 positions further down in your top 15. So there's been plenty of movement in the field. Looking at your recovering drivers, David Baker has already come from 41st at the start of that first lap, already up to 33rd in the field. So he's making a recovery drive out there, with your own Kaiser, JB Masida as well, making recovery drives at the back of the field. But right now, at the front, got a little bit of a breakaway, I would say. The front 4 just trying to separate themselves from the rest of the field. There you see it, and there's that little bit of a gap back to Billy Fletcher and Elliot Harper, and I think that's where the pros and the pro-ams do show their little bit of difference, because the pros, they just get those lap times in lap after lap after lap, as in fact Elliot Harper loses the position to the charging Adam Watson.
Maybe you can use Adam Watson to tow himself up to Billy Fletcher, who's in a bit of no man's land, but he'll come under attack from Alex Neller in the Boosted Motorsports car. Must say, Boosted Motorsports, some of the best liveries that we have here in this championship. The beautiful grid. Very much always enjoy riding around with the Boosted guys, as we're doing now, down into the heavy braking zone that is turn 2. You mentioned David Baker. I was trying to say this before the chaos ensued down into the hairpin. He can't afford to let his head drop. He needs to make sure he pushes, because the further up the field he'll get, the more points he'll get, but also puts himself in a better position for the spinny wheel that, of course, will make an appearance after this race is done and when we get ourselves ready for race number 2. So always eyes forward, can't get his head too far down as Neller gets blocked aggressively there from Harper.
I think that's because Elliot Harper was actually looking to make a move potentially on Adam Watson in front of him. Watson, as I say, he's on a charge. He's up 4 positions there, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Team Mad driver myself, but he, to be fair, he has been making some moves forward in all of this. And, well, let's see what happened to David Baker then at the start.
So it's, is that Neller who's
yes.
on the grass? Oh, that's just so unfortunate. I've done it so many times. Just get a foot off into the grass, car spins around because that difference in traction between one tarmac and then the grass. Unfortunate for David Baker, nothing he could do in that situation. And well, he's fortunate in some ways that he was then not involved in some of the chaos that happened down into the hairpin.
Yeah, of course, because if you're at the back of the field, carnage and chaos ensues in front of you. I mean, to be fair to him, he can get off the throttle and just pick his way through, but it's such a dangerous place to be involved in the mid-pack or at the rear of the field, because accidents can happen in front of you, and unfortunately for David, is able to carry on. And, well, Alex Neller, it is so easily done, isn't it? Into that turn 3, just getting a touch of the wheel onto the grass. This is what happened down at the hairpin in Arjuna.
So what happens here? They're going to try and make it 3 wide. And well, that's the lap 1 aggression. I don't want to place too much blame on any one of the particular drivers. Someone with a bit of arca brakes there, just trying to dive their way down to the inside and clattering into the side of one of the other drivers. It's lap 1 chaos. It's trying to make hay while the sun shines, isn't it? No one's meaning to set off that chain reaction, but ultimately, a chain reaction was set off and many cars off into the gravel and many cars with significant damage.
But everybody's still running in this race, which is tremendous to see here so far. The field, we're almost at 31 minutes to go in this race, almost 9 minutes done in this race. The field spread at the moment is 27 seconds back to 39th place. In fact, 31 seconds back to 40th place. So it shows that after 9 minutes, I mean, on such a big field though, as Paul Webster and Ross Nicholson are side by side for position here, and Paul Webster, again, another driver on the charge here for Sir Mortal, up into 14th place. That's plus 6 positions for him. And well, his setup guy is in our YouTube chat, and it's certainly working out for him so far.
That was brave. That was brave, though, around the outside of turn 10. That can very simply come unstuck if that car on the inside just washes a little bit too deep, forces you into the grass. We've seen that on countless occasions here on the iRacing Sim. But Paul Webster, currently the highest running AM driver, 4 positions, I should say 5 positions ahead of Ryan Hamilton. That's almost 3 seconds between him and that next car down in the same class.
Yeah, so he's on a charge here. We've got the Sim Stickers car in front as well. That's Brian Lyons making moves there on Aaron Rose. And that's, big moment there through the middle of Sunset Bend. And Rose will say, well, thank you very much. I'll take that position back right now. But Lyons did well to hold on to that Lamborghini, because that car was not behaving mid-corner.
He's got some fire in his loins, doesn't he? He was trying that. He was. I'm sorry. I know Peter's not here. I know Chaz is not here.
I've had Chaz, I've had Peter, now I've got you with the puns.
I figured I had to. I mean, it's World GT rite of passage at this point in time. It was opportunistic, right? It's that opportunity to try something happen, but that's the alternate lines. You can do different things through Sunset, but if you don't have the car to manage the bumps, that's what I was mentioning earlier, right? Pliancy. It's not necessarily a word you hear when it comes to GT cars, especially the top level of sports car racing, but having the ability to manage yourself over the bumps, that's where the dampers come in so crucial, making sure your suspension is ready to race here, and clearly just a little bit too sideways, and that almost sent him in down the order even further. Paul Webster
now about a minute behind the race leader. He's about 10 seconds behind Ben Gregory, but the thing is, that is actually a planned pit stop for Jeroen. He did have damage, of course, from that instant down at the hairpin on lap number 1, so taking advantage of getting himself some repairs. And I have seen on my timing sheet Andy Shield dropping down the order, and this is what's happened to him.
Oh, the 007, well, that very much shaken there, not stirred. That's the same thing we saw at the start with Alex Nella, right? Get your left side wheels onto the grass. Not much you can do in that situation other than get off the brakes, in which case he would have gone straight into the wall. So not necessarily so surprised to see that. Has Paul Webster just gone around the outside of... I think he has. What a move that was.
No, that's still the battle for 14.
The liveries are confusing me here.
Well, it's Brian Loynes, of course, is a teammate of Ross Nicholson in front of Paul. So Paul's in a Sim Stickers sandwich right now. 2 Lamborghinis and a Porsche.
Well, I have to be pedantic here, Paul. Technically, it's not a Sim Sticker sandwich. It's a Paul Webster sandwich with Sim Sticker spread.
You're just getting back at me for Rallycross for the Brandt shortcut.
Trust me, you're glad that Lewis McLean is not here, because he would have been a lot more strict about it.
Well, anyway, it's a bread sandwich with a Paul Webster filling. But anyway, these drivers heading down towards the hairpin right now, and they're all in this bit of a gaggle of cars here, headed by Aaron Rose, Team 24 esports outfit. Then you've got Loynes, you've got Webster, you've got Nicholson. Christian Rose for the Craig Setup outfit, his Porsche in 16th place, and Jason Dilworth rounding out this gaggle of cars in 17th place in that Nomad Sim Racing car. And they're just all you see, some of them will be thinking long term and thinking, I want to stay behind somebody to get a slipstream to save myself some fuel to save maybe a second in the pit stop. Others will be thinking, I just want to make some moves and move forward in this.
Yeah, we are seeing a little bit more restraint than I kind of expected. I mean, it's Sebring, it's World GT Championship. Yes, they're the longer races, the 40-minute features rather than the 20-minute sprints, but I expected a little bit more chaos, especially out front, where Dinez, McFarlane, Thompson, and Turnbull are basically all holding station at this point in time. They've broken away about 2.5 seconds from Billy Fletcher, who's in that no man's land. All the carnage and action is happening further down the pack, as I think something's just happened to Matt Bunn. Oh, he just run a bit wide through Le Mans, potentially, as we saw back there.
And there is one of our drivers who started from the back of the grid, Alex Davidson. And in fact, he's heading onto pit road. Now, Alex had a tremendous race last time out at Suzuka, and his teammate David Baker is coming in as well. David had moved up to 28th place. Oh, Alex missing his pit stall there. It's something that couldn't be so easily done. Here's David Baker just going through shot as well. There's Matt Bunn and Andy Archer all heading onto pit road as well. So Alex Davidson in the stall is about 10.5 seconds right there, and he is away. Christian Rose as well has been down pit road for his stop. So I think this is where you're getting a few drivers who are maybe out of position, perhaps, thinking, right, let's get ourselves some clean air here and try and get some quick lap times in and try and get the undercut here.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that these 40-minute races have, right? It's that strategy of trying to find some clean air. If you think that you're being bottled up behind someone, you don't want to fight too hard on track, which might cost you even more time, come down to pit road. Hopefully you don't slide through your box like we saw just there, and make sure that you can find some clean air to put in some really quick lap times, force someone else to respond. That's what we saw this past weekend in Formula One action, right? Is that pit strategy, and not necessarily tire related here. It's more about just that finding the clean air in what is such a chaotic race. Up front though, let's see if anyone comes down this time around, coming to half distance.
Yeah, so as you say, coming towards the halfway point, I think what you'll see here is the front few will go as long as they possibly can to get as deep into the stint as possible. Then when they do come out, it's more than likely that drivers that are behind will have pitted as well, so they can keep themselves in this relatively clean air. But you look at this pack here, 4 cars together, and then they've got about a 4.5 second gap between Matt Turnbull, who's in 4th place, and Billy Fletcher, who, as we mentioned, is pretty much in a no man's land right now in 5th place. The average 5 laps, because I can see the average 5 lap times, 5 lap times for the front 4, all in the 59s. Everybody else is either 2 minutes or higher.
Josh Thompson just murdered one of our cameras there outside on the grass. The last 5 lap times, I think it's less important in a race like this, right? Because yes, they're 40 minutes, but you need to be fast when it matters. The consistency is good, but for Fletcher in particular, he's more concerned about what happens if Elliot Harper behind catches him. He needs to make sure that he's got some tires underneath him. Yes, it's a cool track. It's only a 40-minute race, and you may think tires not that important. But Paul, I mean, we know just how important tires can be here on iRacing. We've seen on occasion over the course of some of even our 2-hour races here on iRacing that some drivers will take 2 tires because that's the way the tires work. Making sure that you have the grip when it's needed is so crucial, even in a 40-minute race.
I mean, I can even remember commentating on a World Championship GT series race where the winning team at Silverstone took a single tyre, the front left. That's all that they took at their pit stop, and it turned out to be a winning strategy. So, you know, I don't expect to see anybody changing tyres in this race because it would just take them completely out of contention. This is all about fuel, all about how much lap time you can keep going, but also how much fuel you can save whilst keeping that lap time going. And Elliot Harper right now, for Luxim 24 Esports, your top Pro-Am in your field, in a very good well, no, he's your 2nd place Pro-Am, should I say, in 7th place overall. Look at the bumps and the amount of wheel input that's going into the car there, and this Lamborghini we do consider as one of the more sort of flat cornering cars, isn't it?
It's an interesting one, right? Because it obviously shares a lot of the characteristics that we see in the Audi R8, but it's got a reputation, especially in the real world, of being rather pointy. And what I mean by pointy is you get it turned in, and if you're lucky, it won't decide to murder you. If you're unlucky, it will decide that it just wants to go around. This is what's great about GT3 though, right? There you got the rear engine 911 Porsche 911 GT3R. I'm trying to get my words out there. Such a different car. It makes its speed in a different way. We know that Porsches are great in rainy conditions. Rain coming to the iRacing service in the future, maybe in future World GT Championship seasons when that rain is available and an extra dynamic factor to think about. Maybe the Porsche is going to be one to pick, but of course we must say, Paul, because there is a 40-minute race with a mandatory pit stop, there's a limited tank size of 50%, as using some of that gravel on the outside of Tower Corner, almost 3 cars in that train. It does mean the car is going to handle differently from the 100% fuel tank capacity. It's going to be a little bit different because of the way the weight transfers depending on which car you're in.
Brendan Stacey having a bit of a battle here in 18th place with Max Wolf and Matt Woodhouse. And Woodhouse behind, waiting patiently again. One of those Immortal cars. So Immortal not doing too bad so far. You got Paul Webster in 14th, and you got Matt Woodhouse in 19th place. So 2 of those cars, and I see a yellow flag on my my timing screen down at the hairpin, and I believe it's JB Masida who has had an issue out there. So yeah, yellow flag there as Alex Nella comes onto pit road. You can see an hour timing tower on the left hand side of the screen there. So you can keep up to date with everything and keep abreast of everything that's going on here today. Matt Woodhouse decides this is a time to head onto pit road, and here's what happened to JB.
Grass once again. Grass seems to be the biggest nemesis to some of these drivers here today. That Team Mad car just spun itself around. Here comes Nello though on the exit of pit road. Is he gonna have some clean air? He'll be close behind Chris Byram and James Whitehouse, but he does have that clean air. So this is where the pro driver needs to now get his foot down and try and cycle to the front of that group that he was in behind that parental guidance car, hoping not too much guidance needed here now.
Certainly not. Well, here's your race leaders then. It is Phil Dennis who's led all the way here in this race right now, ahead of Ross McFarlane, of course. As I say, your current champion, defending champion, he's got the number 1 on the side of the door. And they're heading out of Tower through then this fast section through Bishop, and then in towards this chicane at the end of that section into Le Mans. This sweeping right-hander, you've got to carry the speed out of here before you then head on down the Ullman Straight and head towards Sunset Bend once again.
And interesting to see BMW, Lamborghini from this top 4. The first Porsche is running down in 6th. You then have to go all the way down to 21st to find a Mercedes, and one of the few Ferraris in our field. That's down in 33rd position. So BMW and the Lamborghini very much the favorite car in this championship, but I've been watching these cars. They're not finding speed in different ways like I'd expect, and I wonder if that's just playing calm. And with a 50% fuel tank, it means you can go about 30 minutes in a GT3 machine. Maybe what we're going to see is some fuel saving has been done from McFarlane, Thompson, and Turnbull. It's not necessarily going to help them go an extra lap. What it might mean is they can do a slightly shorter stop than Denez. As here we go, side by side. Elliot Harper trying to now get past Watson in front.
And a beautiful shot there as we see through the left-hander then, through formerly Big Ben, this right-hander flat out heading towards the hairpin, and Watson may have to go defensive here. Here's the look to the inside by Elliot Harper, and the Luxem 24 driver gets himself in front of Adam Watson, so Watson not able to hold on to his position and falls back a position there. They've got Michael Evdoka in one of the few Ferraris right behind them. Watson looking to the outside, Harper feeling the need to defend the inside from Watson there, and Adam trying patiently just to get past. But right now you don't need to force the move here. Maybe try and put the pressure on to force a mistake from Elliott in front, but really you just, if you've got the pace, it will happen for you.
Apparently I completely forgot Michael Evdoka in a Ferrari. Maybe if you're Evdoka though, come down onto pit road this time around, because I think he would cycle into some clean air behind. And Harper and Watson, as fun as this fight is, it always slows you down, right? And we're only about 6 minutes away from having to see the cars come down onto the pit lane. So maybe try something different. Maybe Chris Wood might be thinking the same. Maybe Mike Horder in the Pro-Am machine might do so this time around.
In towards Sunset Bend once again, looking to the outside is Watson, trying to get the cut under, is he perhaps? Are they both going to head on down to pit road? Well, Harper's heading on to pit road. He's probably thinking, this is my time. Get the pit stop done, as Matt Turnbull as well has headed down to pit road. So that was one of your front 4, and that is quite big. So even though he was at the back of that queue of traffic in that lead battle, he's the first one to blink here, Arjuna.
And maybe he thinks he can go faster than what the pace that Denez was setting out front. So this is going to be crucial, that merge back for the Lamborghini. There's some traffic that's just gone on past. Might have some clean air as he will feed back out onto track. Denez and that Zebra, I don't think he's been going pedal to the metal. I think Denez has been quite restrained. We know the Californian can be very aggressive. We've seen him do that in a GT3 car and in this BMW M4, but I think there's a couple of tenths still in that lap time. Maybe he's got to turn the wick up now, knowing that Turnbull has found clean air 3 seconds behind the car in front. Turnbull has plenty of opportunities to make this undercut work.
As they head on through Tower Corner once again, pit stops have been ongoing for the time being, but it is Dennis who leads this one ahead of McFarlane and Josh Thompson's BMW, Lamborghini and BMW. Your top Pro-Am at the moment is Billy Fletcher in 4th place. Mike Horder is your next best Pro-Am in 8th place, with Brian Loyens 10th place in Pro-Am. Your top Am is Paul Webster in 11th, with Ryan Hamilton 13th, the next best Am driver. And then behind them, Craig Jones in 20th place. All of those drivers that I have mentioned all hours of pit stops, so things will get changed up once we have those pit stops. When do we see pit stops happen? Well, McFarlane, he's pulling the trigger now. He obviously thinks that he can go faster.
Not surprised to see this, and now it's crucial. Can him and Turnbull come out in similar space and work together potentially to try and go faster? As busy pit road, Fletcher, Watson, and Horder all in this time around as well. Can McFarlane execute in pit lane? Look how close to the wall he gets on entry.
Yeah, he does. You've got to be careful with that, though. Waiting patiently. It'll only be about 10 seconds or so on the box, and away he goes then. 10.2 seconds for Ross McFarlane. He pulls away out of the pit lane. Now, does he get himself a nice bit of clean air? You can see we've got a veritable pit party going on right now.
McFarlane's come out behind Chris van der Nest. That is not what he would have wanted. It should be noted as well. 9.9 seconds in the box pull for McFarlane. Turnbull, 11.4. I don't know if McFarlane put in a little bit too less fuel than Turnbull, or if Turnbull was just a little bit slow entering and exiting that box. But McFarlane with a flyer of a pit stop now has traffic to deal with.
And he'll want to get by as quickly as possible here. Although Van der Nest, that'll be easier said than done. Van der Nest is, contact between the two of them at the hairpin. McFarlane goes through. I'm surprised there hasn't been a terse flash of the headlights from Van der Nest there, because that was a little bit rude.
A little bit. I think you're putting it mildly now. I can understand McFarlane's frustration, but Van der Nest is running his own race. He can't afford to necessarily just pull to the side and, you know, let McFarlane stroll on by. He's got to fight, and Chromehorn came out there and just bullied him. That was almost NASCAR style, bump and run, getting on past. I wonder how much time that costs McFarlane now. Can Thompson maybe get in front of that Lamborghini here on the pit cycle?
Well, let's see. As there's the replay, just a little bump going in and another bump mid-corner as well. That unsettled as both your leaders head onto pit road. You can see it in the timing tower. They're both on pit lane right now. Ross McFarlane on a lap where he needed a clean lap. It's not gone his way. Will he get the jump over these two right now? They're hitting the pit stall right now. There's Josh. In front of him is Phil Dennis. Waiting patiently.
Watch the times. Watch the times, Paul, because this is going to be important. 9.9 was the time for McFarlane. Are these guys going to go shorter? No, it's a little bit longer.
Well, out of the pit stall they go. Where is Ross McFarlane? He's coming down the pit straight, heading in towards turn number one. He's got ahead of Josh Thompson again. That's not a problem, but he is behind Phil Dennis still. So he's ahead of Thompson, behind Dennis, exactly where he was when he made his pit stop.
And so what I'm learning now for race number 2, which is going to be different because, yes, we've got the reverse grid, but you can go until about 12 minutes left on the clock, and the overcut seems to work better. Having the clean air earlier is better, because even Turnbull, look how far behind that second Lamborghini for Pure Sims is in this train. These 4 cars, the most separated we've seen them so far. Just under 11 minutes to go. McFarlane has lots of work to do. In front is Denez, and I think Thompson's going to try and get past.
Yeah, certainly. He's looking busy now as Josh. He wants a position and he wants to get ahead of Ross McFarlane. Just to let you know then, after all the pit stops have taken place here, it is Phil Dennis then who leads this one ahead of Ross McFarlane by just about a second. Josh Thompson not that far behind Ross in this one. Your top Pro-Am then is Billy Fletcher in 5th place. He's been 5th place pretty much all race. He started there. Elliot Harper down to 8th place in this race right now for the Luxim 24 Esports outfit. And then Mike Horder is your 3rd place Pro-Am in 11th place. Your top Am, wow, 12th place for Paul Webster. I'm not going to tempt fate, but that is an astounding position to find him in your AMs. Your second best AM driver is Ryan Hamilton, who is down in 19th. Matt Turnbull moves ahead of Josh Thompson. Thompson has had a slowdown penalty.
And that would have been coming through Le Mans. It's so easy just to push the limits of the curb that little bit too much. He's still having to serve it as well. This is heartbreaking then for him. Still going slow. And now finally gets on the loud pedal, makes it a Pure Sims 2nd and 3rd position lockout for them. Now McFarlane has only one goal, right in front.
Still, has he got a problem? I think he's got a problem. Yeah, he's got a problem.
Oh no, that's heartbreaking. Stuck in third gear, I think.
Oh my goodness. I mean, Josh Thompson in this championship never seems to have any good luck at all. And he's found himself in the wall at turn number 1. It must have been a hardware issue for him then. I thought, as you, I thought it was a slowdown penalty to start with.
We'll get the word. I have no doubt about that. If we had access to team radios, there is no way that what would have been said there from Thompson would have been playable on air. We know that for sure, and the frustration being taken out on his poor M4. What did that M4 ever do to you, Josh?
It wasn't so much the M4, it was maybe his wheel that was not talking to the same. Look at this, door handle to door handle stuff. Adam Watson, Elliot Harper, they've been at each other all race here, and this is the battle for 6th place right now. Harper, oh, he's been just a keen battle with Adam Watson here. This is tremendous stuff. We've got 8 minutes remaining in the race here, and these two, they've been at loggerheads from the very start.
And remember, 40-minute races, so by no means is it a sprint race, but definitely long enough to have elongated battles with one another, and these two really have been putting on a show. Here's a look then at what happened to Andy Shields. So the second time the 007 has gone around, and this time into the tire barrier. I wonder if there's any right rear damage to his Ferrari. Once more, car just running a little bit wide, having an issue. Michael Blake, well, not much he could do there. That 3M car right up his chuff, and around he goes. And
that was Mr. 3M himself, Jonathan Walker, who pushed Michael Blake around. That's one sponsor to another, because of course Michael Blake is Mr. Immortal Models. So yeah, fight it out, boys. Keep it on the track though, as Watson and Harper. This is tremendous, is this? This is over 6th place right now. But these two have actually been pulling away from Alex Neller and Chris Wood behind. So even though they're fighting, they're keeping the pace up here.
And that's how you know it's a good, respectful fight, as well as when you understand when not to trip over one another. That's the crucial thing. You see that time and time again when two cars just fight amongst each other, get so frustrated that they're fighting amongst one another that they really lose each other time hand over fist. So yeah, just unfortunate for them. And the word from Thompson, by the way, we've got it in the YouTube chat like we suspected. He was having to unplug and replug his wheel in during that race. So clearly it's been an ongoing, lingering issue. And after a certain time, went kaboom.
Oh.
Is that David Baker? No, it's Alex Davidson. I thought for a moment Baker had come unstuck once more.
Yeah, Alex Davidson then down to 17th in this. I was actually going to mention about David Baker, but this is it. He's behind one of his compatriots then, Christian Rose, and he didn't want to rear-end him, took to the grass and kept it out the walls. I will say David Baker, recovery drive from him, currently in 20th place. Remember, at the exit of turn 3, he fell all the way down to 41st in this race. So David Baker, great recovery drive, and he's in a prime spot for a potential reverse grid pole position. So you know, keep an eye out for that at the end of this race. Before we give you the results, we will spin the wheel and find out what the grid inversion is here today. But we've still got this tremendous battle right now on screen. Elliot Harper, Adam Watson, they've been door handle to door handle, they've been wheel to wheel, they've almost traded paint in all of this. So this is tremendous. Let's hope they can keep it up all the way through to the checkered flag. Watson going a defensive late move to the inside. That can open up the corner exit for Harper. Watson's ahead though. Harper maybe could have tried a little bit of a cut back there, but tried to go around the outside of Watson, but that's always a dangerous move to be around the outside of turn 1.
Great stuff, incredible. And look at this though, right side of the screen, the battle for the race lead is now a car length separating Denez and McFarlane. If I'm McFarlane, you do have to remember, Paul, we know he likes to win, but he can't afford to lose the points because he's clear of the rest of his competitors at this point in time. He's got to make sure he doesn't come unstuck.
Certainly. We go on board then with Ross McFarlane, the Scotsman for Pure Sims Esports. We saw Pure Sims Esports competing in the Creventic Endurance Series on the weekend, of course, around this very venue. So they will have got a tremendous amount of data about how the Lamborghini behaves around this track here, and that will certainly have helped them as part of their preparations for this event. Chris Byram into Sunset Bend in that Mercedes. Ooh. And maybe just carrying a little bit too much speed into there. Kisses the tyre barrier. Unfortunately, it is just that, a tyre barrier rather than the concrete wall.
Best car number in all of racing, number 78. So I approve Chris Byram, but that's the bumps of Sunset as well, is that carry a little bit too much speed in, that car gets unsettled and it will snap on you, especially when you have the weight of that car all the way to the front. Other of these GT3 cars mid-engine, so a little bit more restrained in the way and less lackadaisical, I should say, I guess, in the way they transfer the weight. But the Mercedes, the BMW in particular as well, the Porsche being rear engine, cars that are very tricky to manage with their weight transfer. 3 minutes left to go, Paul, so I suspect that means 2 laps for McFarlane to follow Dinez around here. And you were talking about the reverse grid, the spinny wheel. What is the reverse grid numbers that we might be looking at? Of course, we might have the full reverse grid race, which, let's be honest, we are all hoping for that level of chaos, but it's unlikely. What are the more likely options we're going to see?
Mid-20s is usually normally what we see with the reverse grid. Although you do get some team numbers drawn occasionally as well. And yeah, it can just throw up some real surprises, can the reverse grid draw. We've seen people very thankful for a reverse grid draw. Adam Watson last time out we had the grid inversion at Motegi was very happy about getting that, because he made a breakaway at the start of the race and just pulled away and got a win for himself and for Team Mad. Let's get this into turn number 10 at Cunningham. Just bouncing the curb. Not every curb is your friend around this track, is it? It's certainly, you've got to pick and choose where you hit the curbs.
Yeah, like on Tower, the exit here, the curb is flat, whereas a lot of the other curbs, you're right, Paul, not Nordschleifer levels of being raised, but definitely not as friendly to the car as you'd suspect. And you can use it to rotate the car as well. So it's all about finding that balance and understanding what the car is going to do.
Oh, no.
Poor Chris Byram. Sunset again. This time, he enters the corner a little bit better, but then wobbles on him, tries to save it, ends up in the tyre barrier, and I think Byram has come down onto pit road to take his fast repair.
Oh dear, it doesn't rain but it pours for Chris Byram as we head on into Sunset Bend for potentially the penultimate time. Elliot Harper getting very close to the back of that Porsche 911 GT3 car, and well, the GT3R, should I say, to give it its full title. But look at that, look at the slipstream that Lamborghini gets. Takes to the outside line once again. Watson has been staunch in his defence of that inside line into turn number 1. And Harper's just having to settle behind once again. This next few corners, very tricky to make any moves.
He's going to have to get the run here out of the left-hand sweeper, which is crucial. It carries your momentum under the bridge and into the hairpin. A little bit wobbly for that 911. Can Harper get the run? Remember, this is Pro versus Pro-Am as well. So this is where you think, is that Pro-Am driver going to make the step up to Pro competition next year? To the outside, he looks.
And the hairpin tried to get the cut back here, but Watson can park the car on the apex, make it very difficult to get past. It's the widest Porsche 911 GT3R out there. Harper to the outside into turn number 10. On the brakes, he can hold it around the outside if he's brave. Watson gives him a squeeze, but does give him room. This is the perfect opportunity, but no, Harper's going to have to slot in behind. Your leaders are onto the Ullman straight right now. There you see the right hand side of your screen. Phil Dennis running wide onto the grass there on the exit of Le Mans. This could be a potential opportunity for Ross McFarlane to maybe make a move down the Ullman straight. He's not quite close enough to make any move into Sunset Bend. So, are we going to see Phil Dennis take another race win here in the World GT Championship? Out the final corner he goes. It's going to be neck and neck, but it's going to be Phil Dennis who takes the win here for 3M by Williams in XPS. Ross McFarlane second place for Pure Sims Esports, and Matt Turnbull, great race for Pure Sims. Billy Fletcher, what a drive for him. 4th place in your AM category. Fantastic stuff. Brian Loynes and Paul Webster have just changed position. Webster is your top AM. He's currently in 12th place. He wanted 11th in all of this, but Brian Loynes just beats him to that. But Webster is your top AM driver in today's race. Final few cars across the line. That's David Baker, the recovering Baker. Where does he finish? 19th from 41st on lap number 1. Tremendous stuff from David. The last few of your drivers are heading their way across the line here, but well, Arjuna, what a race that was. A really close race at the front as we keep on seeing more cars coming through. Ben Gregory with the recovery drive here as well. He's trying to work his way through in the 2 Century Sim racing cars, working their way through the final corner.
Flag to flag for Dinesh. McFarlane got close, but again, I think he had to remember, championship is on the line here, and if he can maintain that consistency, oh, that's a spinning Ferrari that's gone around. Style points at the very least. David Baker, what a drive, it must be said from him. Really impressed, not just by Billy Fletcher, but by Paul Webster as well. Pro-Am and Am drivers mixing up there at the front. Now, though, with the reverse grid race ready to go, what can they do here?
Yeah, that was series admin Matt Spun who made the spin there across the line. But here we go then. Here is the reverse grid draw. The lowest number on that wheel is actually number 20. And let's see what is the one that comes out. If we do get it land on the logo of the series, then it is a full reverse grid, but that wheel is slowing down. It's slowing down. Will it tick over to 20 or will it stay on 30? Oh my goodness, I believe that's just number 20 there. We're zooming in. That is more over on the 20 side than on the 30 side. So we will go through your final standings of that opening race and we will let you know who's on pole position. But it is a race win by 0.2 of a second from Phil Dennis there for the 3M by Williams NXBS competition car. 2 Pure Sims Esports outfit drivers then, second and third. They must be happy with that, Ross McFarlane and Matt Turnbull. Billy Fletcher, as we say, for LuxSim 24 Esports, your top Pro-Am driver in 4th place. A tremendous result for him, and really, I could see him and his teammates moving up to Pro next season. Michael Evdoka for Pure Sim SimLab, 5th place for him with Adam Watson 6th. The hard charging and hard fought position for 6th place because Elliot Harper was right there with Adam Watson, and Alex Neller wasn't that far behind the two of them either at the end of that race for boosted parental guidance. Chris Wood for Team Mad in 9th place ahead of Mike Horder, who rounds out the podium of your Pro-Ams. Brian Loynes and just getting 11th place ahead of the top AM driver, Paul Webster in 12th place for Simmortal. Aaron Rose in 13th ahead of Christian Rose, 14th, no relation. Ross Nicholson and Jason Dilworth then 15th and 16th places for Sim Stickers and Nomad Sim Racing respectively. Alex Davidson, after a back of grid penalty to finish 17th, is a tremendous effort from him. Max Wolf in 18th for Evo SR ahead of the recovering David Baker. Tremendous drive from him in 19th place. And Ryan Hamilton it is for Nomad Sim Racing, who will find himself on pole position. Wow. What a starting position for him. 21st then for Mark Woodhouse, just misses out on the reverse grid draw. Brennan Stacey in 22nd ahead of Tom Stevens and Chris Van Der Ness, the 2 Evo SR teammates in 23rd and 24th. Tim Perry for 3 Spires Motorsport ahead of Tony Draper for Century Sim Esports. Craig Johnson, the sole CCR SimSports outfit in 27th ahead of Jeroen Kaiser. Jonathan Walker and Michael Blake in 30th place. 31st for Adam Hedgecock then, who didn't have the best of days out there today, I think he'll admit. Ben Gregory, who got caught up in an incident down at the hairpin, 32nd place ahead of Andy Harcher and James Whitehouse. Matt Bunn spinning across the line in 35th place ahead of John Roberts. Toby Ward, Chris Byram was the first of the drivers 2 laps down after having his lap-on-lap spin at the final corner. Josh Thompson with hardware failure. I think we'll be surprised to see him in the second race. Andy Shield also retired on the same lap, and JB Masida out of the race. But it is Ryan Hamilton who finds himself on pole position for Nomad Sim Racing. And, well, Ryan, I'm just looking at my timing sheet. He was the second placed AM driver in the results here. That is a big position to find himself on the grid here.
And came into this race as championship leader. So with Paul Webster only being 16 points back going into that race, this is crucial for him. Must also be said, Paul, that recovery drive from David Baker all the way down out of the top 40 at one point in time, up to 19th. He'll start on the front row. This is where Baker needs to shine.
Yeah, this is his opportunity to get himself some big points now, isn't it? To make up for that first race. And it's drives like that first race where, yeah, there's an incident, you get involved in an incident on lap 1, but it's how you then recover from that is how you can keep yourself in a championship fight.
Absolutely, and consistency wins championships. I'm commentating on another series where the defending champion hasn't finished outside of the podium for 12 months. In what is a 22-race season here in 2021, he's averaged a podium every single race. It's incredible the level of consistency that some of these drivers can do. That's what we're seeing from McFarlane right now. Baker is going to need a miracle with just, 40 minutes here today, and then another 40, I guess it's another hour in 7 days' time left to go in this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got another 40-minute race. So if you think that the start of that last race was a bit exciting, wait until you see this one with the inverted grid. We're just waiting for the admins to get that second server up for you momentarily. And of course, the finals day will be at Monza for that final 3 20-minute sprint races. And I have a funny feeling that every single one of those championships is going to go to that final race of the evening. We'll be certainly hitting F5 to refresh the points sheet all the way through that evening, because we need to keep a track of how that championship fight goes and finishes next week.
The Temple of Speed, and we're talking about Lap 1 chaos. Is there any track that invites it more than Monza? You'd be hard-pressed to answer that question.
Yeah, the Rettifilio is certainly one of those that give you that drama. Then, of course, the Della Roggia chicane as well is another pinch point on that opening lap. And, well, that's next week, of course. We've got one more race coming up for you shortly. Now, World GT Championship is, of course, brought to you by 3M, the title sponsor of this championship, and we've been mentioning it the last few weeks on this championship. They've got a brand new product out. Arjuna, why don't you give us all the information about that?
I've got my beautiful hand model, Paul Smith, who's ready to show you the 3M Sim Gloves Sim 21. These are 100% made in Italy. Light, breathable, comfortable gloves. I believe they've also got a, I don't know what you call it, little way for you to use your phone while also having the gloves on. What are they called, Paul?
Well, I don't know what they're called, but it works on your touch screen, and you know, I've got lots of notifications out. I won't show you that, but
well, I tell you what, they're washable in a washing machine as well, which is crucial given that, you know, sim racers, yes, we're sitting comfortable in our rigs, but we do tend to sweat a lot as well. 100% made in Italy, that's crucial, with new fabrics on the palm, which I guess is going to make it a little bit more comfortable. I must say, Paul, you're rather... Oh, and grippy. You look like a very comfortable hand model.
Well, you know, I've had practice at this now. You'd think I'd be all right at this, but yeah, you know, you got the 3M logo, and of course the Sim 21, which is the product that it is. And I've been using these for a few weeks now, and yeah, I've been enjoying them. It's got strengthening on the inside of the palm here as well, the inside of the palm, inside of between your index finger and your thumb, should I say?
Well, I tell you what, Paul, is it fair to say that those gloves are what let you win a iRacing Rallycross World Championship All-Star Heat?
I would say yes, but I forgot to wear them.
No! Oh, well, that's a disappointing tone there. Of course, Paul did win his heat in the iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational last time out. Feature race, let's not talk too much about that one, though.
I finished 8th.
You did finish 8th out of 12.
Yeah, but that's what, the middle third? I'll take that.
I guess technically the bottom third?
No, it's the middle third.
No, you're right. I can't count. When are we going to see you actually be an all-star again, Paul? Because clearly you need those gloves to spur you on to new heights.
Well, first of all, I need a working brake pedal is what I need right now. Yeah, that's something that I'd need first of all before I can look at doing that. Can you tell we're padding time, by the way? Talking about the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series, it's worth just quickly pointing out, over halfway through the championship now, the racing has been absolutely epic. You do not want to miss the second part of this season. It certainly has been thrilling. Myself and Arjuna, who's leading the commentary on the IRX, dramatic is one of those words that I would use. If you're just watching the World Championship drivers, though, you are missing out on a bunch of fun with the All-Stars that happened before those World Championship races.
You'll miss the opportunity for Paul to say, to shout in a rather high-pitched voice, I'm in the lead. There's a great clip on Twitch from Paul's, not just Paul's stream, but our stream as well, that you can go and watch as well. I must say, what fun it is. Cage match on wheels. I know you watch Rallycross with Murray Walker commentating on that. I'm a much more recent convert. I grew up watching the likes of Colin McRae and Peter Solberg doing rallying, and then recently got into Rallycross when it became much more of a worldwide series recently. These guys put on a show. We've got some great names from real-world motorsports. So good to see the blue and gold of Subaru Motorsports USA. What fun it is, and you get to listen to my voice, maybe not as dulcet and calm as Paul's voice, that's for sure.
I will say, I shared a track with Connor Daly, IndyCar driver.
And Ron Capps.
I beat Ron Capps, who's a multiple-time funny car, top fuel drag racer. I mean, where else could you do that but iRacing? It's tremendous.
You also got to share a track with Craig Williams. I'm not sure if that's something you want to be shouting about, though.
Well, not think it's something that he'd want to shout about either, because he was on his side as I went past and waved at him. But
you were 3 wide for a moment there as well. It was so much fun. The All-Stars just put on a show, and really it's just a treat that we get to sit there and watch and commentate on all the fun that we get to see on track.
Yeah, and of course it is from Hell Lankenbanen this week, so make sure you do join us for that. We are getting ourselves into the second race session of the evening, so you're not missing a thing here on RaceSpotTV. Thank you so much for joining us here today for the World GT Championship. We're down to 4 more races now in this championship. The reverse grid draw has been drawn with 20th place. Those reverse grid those reverse grid races can really mix things up in terms of a championship. And when you someone like Ryan Hamilton, who's the top AM driver in the championship coming into this round, that is just manna from heaven for him.
Yeah, and because, I mean, that's something that maybe I don't know how much you talk about it, Paul, but it's not points per class like we see in some other similar championships. It's points determined by your finishing position overall. So you're an AM driver, for example. We've seen that on occasions where you get cycled to the front as a result of these. Incredible. Just some incredible luck in the championship. As the maker of our spinny wheel, Paul, I have a feeling I'm going to have to slip something special to Hugo next week so we see full reverse grids in every single one of our races. I
think the series admins might have something to say about that.
It's programming. It's totally random. Totally random.
We've got about 5.5 minutes then before the next race here. It's going to be going in towards the darkness around here, so track temperature is going to be that bit cooler. You're going to see cars on the opening few laps be a bit more slidey. You can see the headlights are casting light on the track there from our aerial coverage. Worth pointing out as well, our cameras are brought to you by Dougie Beard. Thank you so much, Dougie, for the work that he's been putting into our track cams. They've been absolutely incredible, so thank you so much for providing those, Dougie, for us here on RaceSpotTV. Cooler track conditions, as I say. The track temperature right now is 24.5 degrees Celsius. When we had the previous race, the lowest it got to was about 27.5. it's only going to get cooler from here as well.
And so that means, roughly, when we get to the start of the race, 3/10, 4/10 quicker just in terms of track conditions. And maybe we'll see some setup adjustments because you can run a little bit more aggressive on the camber. You can heat those tires up just that little bit more. It's a very minor shift in temperature. It might have major implications for these drivers. So watch and see. This is where the top drivers sometimes are better at adapting. Also means that if you've done your practice in one of the conditions and not necessarily as much in the other pole, you might be more comfortable here. Also should be pointed out, as we go through the 40 minutes, it's going to get increasingly dark here. It's what, about 8:15 in the virtual Sebring, Florida right now? By the time we get to this end of this race, it should be pitch black and everyone relying on those headlights. Very, very easy. We've already seen it before. Put a foot off in the grass and spin yourself around.
Look at that golden sky here. The sunset conditions that we're at right now. And Sunset Bend, I think the drivers are actually lucky that the sun isn't actually blinding them through Sunset Bend, because that is something that is a real problem here at Sebring as the sun sets, and especially for those drivers using VR. I mean, people might say, oh, it's just computer image, it won't blind you. If you're especially using VR, or if you're using the HDR graphics, that sun is just incredibly bright, and it does blind you in terms of being able to see details of the track.
And as our producer Hugo Luis has just pointed out, there's a pun in there somewhere about sunset at Sunset Bend if you really wanted to go fishing for it. But you're right, and especially in VR, it's hard to emphasize just how blinding the sun can be when it comes and is straight in your eyes. It's really like sitting there in the car and having that experience of searching for the visor to just help you out, searching for sunglasses to help you out, whatever you can do. Very much a benefit. But sometimes what you can see with those who use monitors, Paul, is I remember a couple of years ago when the night lighting had just come to iRacing, and some of the tracks hadn't necessarily been properly updated to have night lighting around the tracks like you would see in the real world. If you're on a monitor, you can adjust settings. You can adjust your gamma and things to cheat. Let's be honest, it's cheating. You're artificially changing what the track looks like to give you a little bit more perspective. Nothing like that can be done in VR. You are left to sit there and deal with your life choices. And I say life choices because VR is for some people. We don't see it so much, though, at the World Championship level on iRacing.
No, we certainly don't. One of the things that you do notice about this track as well, when the lights do come on, is the reflective road studs at the side of the track as well, which you don't see at very many other racetracks. And that's because this used to be an airfield. In fact, part of it still is an airfield, isn't it? Not on the racetrack itself, but just to the side of the track is where it is an airfield. So you've got those reflective road studs just helping guide those drivers when it gets dark, because there is very little light out here on this track apart from down the start and finish straight.
And it makes for a spectacular scene at the end of the 12-hour race here that the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship comes and runs every March. And now we've obviously got the WEC that comes and makes it a super weekend of action as well. Really fun stuff, and of course these GT3 cars already featured in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, going to be elevated to the top level of GT racing in America next year when the GTEs get retired. We're going to see GT3s at Le Mans as well, so these cars will be brought into the WEC fold. So these cars very, very familiar about being run around here. And as we come into the closing stages of this warm-up, interesting to note who is quickest in this session. It's Alex Davidson. We saw him have a bit of a nightmare in race number 1. Can he turn his fortune around, though, in race number 2?
Now, I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me, but Josh Thompson is actually in this race session, so he must be at least testing just to see if his wheel does allow him to take part in the second race, because it would be good to see him working his way through the field from the back of the grid. But at the same point, he's got to have those doubts in the back of his head as to whether he'd get to the end of the race.
Well, he's out there on track, but I was just taking a look. He was parked, I think that was at the hairpin. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I'm going to go and try and take a look and see if I can figure it out. But I'd be very hesitant if I was Josh, because you don't want to enter a race with a known pre-existing issue with your rig and make things worse for other drivers fighting for a championship. We know that Josh is a respectable guy. We'll see exactly if he lines up here for race number 2.
Well, we are getting set for the second race of the evening here in the World GT Championship, and we can take you through your starting grid here then. So it is Ryan Hamilton for Nomad Sim Racing, who is on pole position, and the recovering David Baker for Pure Sims and Craig Setup Shop sharing that front row of the grid. So it's Am and Pro on front row of the grid. A Pro-Am, third place, Max Wolf for Evo SR. Alongside him is Alex Davidson, the privateer. Alex did a tremendous job at Suzuka last time out. Expect to have him fighting for a race win. Jason Dilworth and Ross Nicholson from Nomad Sim Racing and Sim Stickers on the third row of the grid. Christian Rose and Aaron Rose then share the fourth row of the grid, along with Paul Webster, your winning AM driver from from the first race, on 9th place, with Brian Loynes at 10th. Then row number 6 is Mike Horder and Chris Wood. Row number 7 is Alex Nella and Elliot Harper, with Adam Watson and Michael Avdoka on row number 8. Row 9 for your top Pro-Am for the first race, Billy Fletcher and Matthew Turnbull. Row number 10 then for your what was the front two of that previous race, which is Ross McFarlane and Phil Dennis, Mark Woodhouse and Brendan Stacey. Then row number 20, my goodness, words Paul. Row number 11 with then row number 12 for Tom Stevens and Chris Van Den Ness. Tim Perry and Toby Draper. Then the next row of the grid with Craig Jones and Euro Kaiser on row number 14. Jonathan Walker and Michael Blake, row number 15. Row 16 then for Ben Gregory and Adam Hedgecock, with Andy Archer and James Whitehouse on row number 17. Row 18 for John Roberts and Toby Ward. Row 19 for Chris Byram and Josh Thompson, and Andy Shield rounding out your 39 cars. We are missing 2 cars from race number 1. And well, one thing that has happened out there is Jason Dilworth is missing from the grid. He's had a problem. He got disconnected, but he is back connected to the server. Question is, can he get back in time to start from the pit lane and then head through at the back of the grid? But from 5th place on the grid, that must be heartbreaking.
Yeah, he'll be scrambling, trying to figure out exactly what happened there, but heartbreaking. And the word from Josh Thompson as well, Paul, is that it was, like we said, an issue with the cable. So he's plugged in, I think, a new cable, and he'll be hoping not to cause too much chaos. And, well, heart in mouth moments, I'm sure, for Josh, because he's right. He'll be at the tail end of the field, so it's not like he's in such a terrible position to have to pull to the side. But we know he's going to try and charge his way up through the field. Plenty of work for him to do. 40 minutes of action, though, so if we have a lap number 1 like we did last time around, Thompson might find himself up there in the top 30 before we even get to the hairpin.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Drivers working their way through towards the end of the lap then. The iRacing pace car, 911 GT3 Cup car, minus the rear wing, of course, from the race car, working its way through Le Mans and heading on to the Ormond Straight here. So Arjuna, predictions for the start of the race. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction for the actual race winner, but the predictions for the start of this race.
It's going to be calm through turn 1. I think we're going to see something, though, in through turns 3, 4, and 5. 2 wide is possible here, but with the night having set, it's so easy to just run a little bit wide, put a foot into the grass, set off a chain reaction. Hopefully, though, I am totally wrong and I can do the anti-commentator's curse and, you know, things go well instead of badly.
Well, the field working the way towards Sunset Bend, and your pole position sitter there, Ryan Hamilton, is taking us round. And is he going already here at the start? That is an early getaway. Trying to get the jump. The pace car is in the pit lane. We've got a spinner. That's one of your Sim Stickers cars. Ross Nicholson is off. We've got Elliot Harper has gone off at the back of the field as well. Fortunately, he's out of the way of everybody. So the green flag is out. And already we've had 2 spinners before they even made it to the green flag here.
Cold tires. Cold tires catching out so many cars. They didn't even get to turn number 1. In through this turn 3, 4, 5, and 6 complex. Can they keep it steady? It was an early jump from Hamilton. David Baker did manage to fend off the advances of Alex Davidson. Watch for Davidson, though, because we saw how quick he was in practice. He'll put the pressure on Baker and Hamilton.
Jason Dilworth did have to set off from the pits. Here we go, down to the hairpin then. Battle for the lead. David Baker to the inside and to the lead then over Ryan Hamilton. And Alex Davidson following Baker through. Alex is actually trying to fight his compatriot from that Craig Setup Shop outfit. Baker, you can tell with the endurance lights on his Lamborghini, has fallen back to second place because Alex Davidson to the head of the field.
And Max Wolf trying to go now to the inside of Hamilton. He'll get it done. Christian Rose thought about following. He'll stick it down the inside. Hamilton from first down to 5th.
Oh, this is... well, Ryan doesn't want to end up getting freight trained here, but he also doesn't want to lose too many positions to get himself...
And look who's there, Paul. That's Paul Webster. AM versus AM, 5th and 6th. This is crucial. The 2 championship leaders in that AM category right up there at the thick end of things.
Oh, this is tremendous stuff then. And this is what you want here as you head towards the final few rounds of the championship. What a start then from Paul Webster, up 3 positions. Ryan Hamilton down 4 positions on this opening lap. We've got cars finding out 2, 3 wide further down your field. But right now into Sunset Bend, we've got cars going 2, 3 wide through Sunset Bend. You don't normally see that work. Cars up in the grass and the gravel into the wall. That's Alex Nella, and it's a chain reaction down the pit straight. Oh, there's more caught. That's 2 Team Mad cars. Your own Kaiser, and I believe Chris Wood.
Incredible. Alex Nella. Oh, it's continuing. Adam Watson, that's not the safest of rejoins. Going, those cones going for the ride of their life. It started with Alex Nella going a bit wide through Sunset into the grass and then clipping the wall when the wall comes back towards the edge of the track. Chain reaction from there. Not much Kaiser could do. Not much Chris Wood could do. And well, disaster then across the line.
Wow, what a dramatic end to the first lap for your competitors out there, and some champion avoidance happening. This contact between 2 drivers. That's Mike Horder, and I believe that's Ryan Hamilton. Yes, the 2 of them got together to your pole sitter. It's gone from bad to worse here for Ryan, all the way down now to 24th in this race. That was contact, I can tell you, as well as yellow flag still at the hairpin, because Michael Evdoka has made contact, and I believe it was with Jonathan Walker.
And Paul Webster, sitting pretty up there in 4th position, will be smiling from ear to ear. If things hold as they are, he should inherit the championship lead heading into that final 60 minutes of action in 7 days' time. But heartbreak for Hamilton. I wonder if he just got bullied a bit too much there. You could see right on lap number 1, he wasn't trying to fight with Davidson, Baker, Wolf, or any of those cars. He was focused on Paul Webster. And we'll have to take a look at the all-seeing, ever-present RaceSpotTV replay machine. I just wonder if Hamilton got bullied there.
I think Hugo's computer is going to blow up trying to find all of these replays. I tell you, it's a lot of action happened here then on laps 1 and 2. We've got well, one of the Luxem 24 esports cars running wide, and that's allowed. Then that was Aaron Rose running wide through the final corner. So Sunset Bend is proven to be very tricky in these conditions.
I wonder if the 50% fuel tank has something to do with it, because it will, especially given that some of these competitors were racing in a 12-hour endurance race this past weekend. I do wonder if the lighter fuel tank changes the balance of the car, and through the bumps of Sunset, it's so bumpy on the entry that it can spit you offline and then put you in a compromised position to come through the middle and then the exit of the corner. I just wonder if we're seeing that play a bit of a factor. Dinez, incredible start from him to get through some of the chaos. He's up into the top 10. That's almost a double-digit gain for Dinez.
Yeah, he's doing an absolutely incredible job, and the crucial thing for him is he's ahead of Ross McFarlane, one of his championship rivals here. So Dinez doing a sterling job at the start of this race. As you say, plus 10 positions for the start here. I've got to point this out. Josh Thompson is up to 18th already in this race. He is on an absolute charge. I think he's going full send in that. Well, he's not in a full send car, he's in a Williams car, but he is certainly pushing things to the limit here in the early going. Doesn't have to worry that much about his tyres. He can just absolutely go for it from the let-her go.
Yeah, that's 20 positions gained for Josh Thompson. So that's, I think, also some of that World Championship experience coming in, right, Paul? Because those World Championship races, you know how crazy the opening laps can be there. Positioning yourself is such an underrated skill at that level of competition, and Thompson has carved through the chaos with almost surgical precision there. I'd have to assume it's that experience of surviving starts in those World Championship series that has let him get to the front. Dinez, look at the pressure he's putting onto Billy Fletcher right now.
I would actually argue that competing in championships like this, where you do have those inverted grids, actually helping for the World Championship as well, because it gives him practice at working his way through the field. And I do feel that quite a few of your top drivers have got cars off. Everybody's struggling. Everybody's struggling with turns, the last turn and the first turn here tonight.
Turn 1 is so high speed that it's somewhat to be expected, right? It's how little can you get on the brakes, how brave do you want to be, how willing are you to try and track out all the way to the edge of the track where there's a curve that's ready to spit you into the wall if you land on it a little bit too uncomfortably. So I'm not necessarily surprised to see that. Turnbull did have a pretty good race number 1, but has some work to do to work his way back into the top 5 here. Davidson, after his nightmare in race 1, 1.6 seconds clear of David Baker. Max Wolf, the Pro-Am machine, is attacking the rear end of David Baker.
We've got side-by-side action here as well. And that's Turnbull on Woodhouse. So Woodhouse losing out the position, this immortal driver. And Matt Turnbull moving his way forward. Also moving his way forward, you would have seen change on that timing tower. Phil Dinez moving ahead of Brian Loyan. So Dinez on an also on a charge here, and we've got right here right now it is not Christian Rose, it's Aaron Rose for Luxim 24 Esports, battling away with Adam Watson, and behind them Christian Rose and also Phil Dinez. So there's some keen battles happening out here.
Behind is Aaron Rose. It's so confusing that I don't blame you for making these mistakes. It is ultra confusing, as now I think Billy Fletcher is getting past Brian Loynes. Indeed, the 388 gets past the 92. I wonder how patient Dinez is going to be, though, because he's, what, 7 seconds adrift from the race leader. He's only 5 away from David Baker, so still potential for a podium if you're the BS competition driver, obviously representing Free-M by Williams Inex BS Plus, the very confusing amalgamation of 3 different teams. I still think a podium's on the card for the California native.
I think a win's on the cards for him. I really think he's just the way he's cutting through this field right here, right now, is just absolutely tremendous. And the ease that he's making his way past, if you've got a big enough difference in pace over some of your rivals, then you can just cut through the field like a hot knife through butter, as Paul Webster loses out that position then to Adam Watson, and they both run out of the same stable, the Team Mad stable, but one's for Immortal and one is for Team Mad. So Watson ahead of Webster, but Webster will be thinking, I am in line for a big ton of points right now.
Ryan Hamilton, 27th position. So that's the crucial difference that you need to look at. Webster versus Hamilton. Potentially for Hamilton, this might end up being one of his drop rounds. We'll have to wait and see how things cycle out at the end of this race. Still 30 minutes to go, so plenty of time for things to change around. But you said the championship fight might come down to the wire in all 3 championships, that final 20 minutes of action at Monza. I think you're right. I think in some of these championships, it might come down to the very final lap. Here's a look at what happened then on the start. This was Ross Nicholson. He went around, and I think separately, we saw an issue for
Billy Fletcher.
Billy Fletcher. I was just trying to remember who had a really good race in race number 1. Here we go.
Well, this is the end of lap 1 then. This is Alex Nella getting up onto the grass, hits the side of that SimSticker's car, and drivers with nowhere to go. Chris Wood, the innocent party, because he'd got on the brakes, and that's his teammate, Jeroen Kaiser. And how nobody else got involved in all of that, I do not know. Here's Jeroen Kaiser's point of view.
Jerome, who does a ton of race control stuff, well, just heartbreaking. He couldn't do much there. You lift off, you're going to be rammed from behind. You don't lift, excuse me, you keep your foot in the throttle. You have to rely on your judgment. Here's what happened to Hamilton. So side by side, he was a little bit wide, and yeah, he does get squeezed. Does he get squeezed enough, though? That's the key question. That 42 car didn't leave him much room, but hard to tell from that angle. Oh, that's a very damaged Ferrari for Michael Ivdoka. That is definitely not straight out of the factory.
That is the damage from that incident with Alex Nella. Because he went into the back of Chris Wood, of course, did Michael Ivdoka in all of that, and that's what then kicked Chris Wood out into the side, or into the other side of the track where your own Kaiser collected it. And, you know, carnage ensued, and before you know it, you've got several damaged automobiles out there right now. Let's just take stock of where we stand right now. So it is Alex Davidson who leads this race. He's got a 2.2 second lead over David Baker, the Craig Setup Shop outfit driver, and he's looking for a good haul of points here today. Max Wolf, the Dutchman, the Pro-Am, is your lead in Pro-Am, and he is doing a sterling job in third place. Fourth then for Adam Watson, ahead of the leading AM driver Paul Webster, who's in fifth place. Phil Dinez is about to make a move on Paul Webster, and if I'm Paul, I'm thinking, do you know what, I'm not fighting this one too hard. It's not my fight to have, as we see movement happening further down in your top 10. Christian Rose then seventh ahead of Aaron Rose, with Billy Fletcher in ninth, and Ross McFarlane we just saw make the move on Brian Loyens. Here we go, down the start and finish straight. And I tell you what, credit where credit's due, Paul Webster is staying ahead of Phil Dinez.
I will say, there's a comment in our YouTube chat, Phil the Surgeon Dinez. I think that is a very apt nickname for what we've seen here today. I know you're a wrestling fan. I don't know how you could excitedly say the Surgeon. That's a pretty scary thing in some regards. But Dinez, he's only 6.5 seconds behind your race leader. David Baker now 2.5 seconds behind Davidson. I think it gives you an indication of the confidence Davidson has even after his issues in race number one. Race win is not off the cards for Dinez right now.
Well, don't forget, it was Dinez and Davidson who had an absolute ding-dong battle at Suzuka last time out, just 1 week ago. And it went all the way down to the end of the race, and it was a mistake. Both drivers made mistakes in that battle as well. It's rare that you get a Phil Dinez mistake there, but he certainly made one, and then Alex Davidson just lost it through the Degners, and that's what cost him a possible race win last week. So he'll be wanting to get himself a win here today, but do not count out Dinez. But again, Dinez is not getting past Paul Webster at the moment. He's still behind the behind the AM driver, should I say, sorry, in that Porsche. This will be his best chance out in Le Mans down the back straight.
Oh, he's got a good run, and he's tucked up in that draft as well. He's going to look to the inside, and he'll get it done, I think, rather simply. If you're Webster, you can't afford to get mixed up right now. Something's happened. Craig Jones, Ben Gregory down the timing screen. I wonder if there's been some chaos here amongst the dark. It is really dark right now, Paul. We talked about how by the end of this race it would be pitch black. We're not even 20 minutes in and it's pitch black.
Christian Rose is heading down pit road for a pit stop. He's going for the clean air, and he's going to try and get his pit stop done right now. Get himself some clean air and get some clean laps in the books, because if you're behind somebody who maybe was slowing you down, that is a possibility of trying to jump others. Adam Watson now, the next victim on Phil Dinez's list of cars. There's up 15 positions. Josh Thompson, by the way, 12th place. 26 places right now. That is absolutely incredible. The Manxman is absolutely flying. Here we go, Ben Gregory.
Ooh, racing incident and splitting the difference. A light flashing from the Mercedes, universal sign of I'm not very happy. We're going to have a talk after this one.
The fact that he was doing it mid-spin as well, that's what really set it apart.
If you're ready to do it, why not go for it, right? I mean, I've seen on occasion, as we'll jump on board with Craig Jones, this surely is going to be of that lap 1 incident. Watch here from the SCCR Sim Sports car. He's tucked up behind the 18. Oh, that was close. Oh, even closer. Jerome Kaiser almost comes and collects the 808.
Yeah, that was a big heart in mouth moment, that. Not quite a change underpants moment, but certainly heart in mouth, that's for sure. As we head onto the back straight, look at how dark it is here at Sebring now. It is incredibly dark. It's not pitch black yet, but it might as well be. And it also shows how little lighting there is around this track as well, as there goes Denez down the inside of Watson. I think Adam Watson knows that resistance is futile.
Yeah, no, I don't know how much you want to fight right now, because there's so much going on that if you fight too much, you're just going to lose so much more time. Denez might even claw Adam Watson further up the field. It's 1.5 seconds up to Max Wolf, who was doing a great job of hanging on to the coattails of David Baker, but now has slipped about 1.7 seconds back. Still a potential podium for Watson if he can follow Denez forward, and David Baker has really not been on the pace of his teammate up front. 6/10 was the difference last time around. The gap that Davidson has to second is almost 4 full seconds.
So Davidson, he's trying to just run away with this one. I think David Baker would have liked to have won this race, though, to help him out in his championship battle after his sterling effort to finish 19th in race number 1 after facing the wrong way at turn number 3, lap 1 in race number 1 here tonight. So you are watching the World GT Championship. Paul Smith, Arjuna Kanakapati on the commentary, and Hugo Luis bringing you all the coverage behind the scenes right now. Thank you very much for joining us here for what's been an action-packed start to the second race of the evening. We've had a few more head down onto pit road. 2 retirements from this race. Unsurprisingly, Jeroen Kaiser is one of those. And Elliot Harper, who had that spin on lap number 1, pulled it over and said, my race is done. So he's out the race as well before he'd even reached the green flag.
Yeah, yes, you have a faster pair here, but remember it. The time it would have taken to cycle all the way around the track and then or alternatively to wait for the tow, I don't necessarily blame some of those drivers. Frustrating moment for them for sure. Still 3 more races in our final day of this championship. So 7 days from now, a final chance for redemption here is what's happened to Rose in the 8 car. Got bullied, I think, and Billy Fletcher, Ross McFarlane, both down his inside heading into Sunset Bend.
And Billy Fletcher and Aaron Rose, of course, teammates for Luxim 24 Esports. So I would sincerely hope that it wasn't too much bullying from Fletcher on his teammate. Here we see that battle then ongoing right now. 16 Tony Draper, Michael Blake involved in this gaggle that we're on board with right now for Simortal, and you've got Chris Van Den Ness, the Pro-Am for Evo S. And there's that Mercedes spinning. Off it goes, turn number 1. I don't think it's touched any walls. Be interested to see if he did that all on his own through turn 1.
And that's a nice, safe rejoin. That is, put that in the dictionary for how to respectfully get back onto track. I think this is going to be by himself.
Oh, it's hit the wall.
Hits the inside wall, and from there, that's all she wrote. Not much that the 23 car could do, and just about keeps it out of the outside wall. He'll be lucky, though, if he doesn't have some steering damage from that hard contact on the inside wall.
Yeah, certainly. That you so much as, but the thing is, with this track going in through turn number 1, you have to get as close as possible. You effectively have to scrape your wing mirror on that concrete wall on the inside to get the best possible run and carry the most speed through turn number 1. It is such an integral part of this track, and it's so difficult to get absolutely right. Billy Fletcher and Ross McFarlane, they've caught to the tail of Paul Webster right now. So the fast-running Paul Webster, he's now +3 positions. He was 4th at one point in this race, but has dropped down through the field right now. There we see on board, and I believe we're on board with Ross McFarlane. There was a car going very slow to the side of the track then. I think that was just a car getting out of the way of these drivers, and Webster onto pit road.
I don't mind this call. He knows that he's just going to lose more and more time letting those cars through. He's definitely had some quick pace, but might not be the worst call. Should also be noted, Dinez has got on past Max Wolf, so he's in third. Incredible. He's worked his way up 17 positions into the podium. 1.5 seconds up the road. Next target, David Baker.
Paul Webster going so well for him, then misses his pit stall, has to reverse. That's cost him at least a second and a half, 2 seconds.
So easy to do as well. I mean, it's also bumpy on pit road, which people might not think is a big factor, but if you get on the bumps and you just lock a tire, yes, you'll have the ABS, but it's not going to help you as much as you think. It's definitely going to then increase your braking distance. Very easy to make that mistake. On board now with the Lamborghini chasing down the car in front as they come down in towards turn 10. This is Ross McFarlane. Hasn't been able to carve his way up like Dinez has done. I think really emphasizes the wonderful job that Dinez has done so far in this race.
I will point out that Paul Webster has actually come out of the pits still ahead of Ryan Hamilton in that battle, but he has got people like Chris Byram, James Whitehouse and Michael Blake who are also AMs, and Tom Stevens all yet to pit who are in front of him, so we'll have to wait and see. We've got about 7 minutes or so before the final pit stops happen, so we're still in that pit stop cycle where people are going as long as possible. We saw that tactic very much at play with the front runners in the first race, and we saw how just going that longer, even a lap, just gave yourself that little bit of space, as Adam Watson now is ahead of Max Wolf.
That's what I was saying for Watson. If he can follow Dinez and try and charge up to the front, might work out nicely for his 911. And again, with Webster and Hamilton in particular, both cars having come down and taken their one and only pit stop, it's the overall position that pays out the points. As around goes Tim Perry, he gets collected. I believe that was Mark Woodhouse, nowhere to go.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Mark Woodhouse indeed. Tim Perry, well, he was following a 911 and it was contact. It was contact between the two of them going into the corner, and bang! Very little that Tim Perry can do about that car once the contact is made.
Yeah, once he's in the air, not much he could do. And for Woodhouse as well, unless he was going to grind to a halt, not much he could do. The initial contact is a little bit aggressive. I think we can say that from Tim Perry, but, well.
It's a late move, isn't it, is that one that he's made?
It is, but Sunset invites those types of moves. That's the thing about that corner. You could run that the wider line that I think Woodhouse was doing. I think that's what Perry thought. Perry thought that Woodhouse had left him room. Still probably his fault, and the stewards will take a good, long, hard look at it, but that's Sunset in a nutshell.
I know exactly what Mark would have been saying in that situation, but it's not repeatable on screen right now. I can tell you we have lost then. Chris Wood is also in a third retirement from this race, and Christian Rose, he is out of this race as well, so not gone well for Christian. It's his first season back in the World GT Championship after having about 12 to 18 months out of sim racing entirely. So he's really acclimatized himself back into the world of sim racing, and yeah, just not gone his way in this second race for Christian for the Craig Setup Shop car. And Max Wolf is back ahead of Adam Watson. I think Watson just had a slowdown penalty.
Interesting. So tables turn. Let's see if that car, yes indeed, I thought Watson maybe would come down to pit road. Not entirely surprised to see that. So 15 minutes ago we saw, what was it, 12 minutes on the clock when the final cycle of pit stops happened. With the colder track conditions, you'd expect they'd be burning a bit more fuel, a bit more time to be foot to the floor and maximum attack. So maybe we'll see the pit stops next time around for your leaders. Should be noted, Dinez 4/10 behind Baker, but again 6 seconds behind Davidson out front. Davidson has been on a rocket ship here today.
He certainly has. I mean, that is an incredible gap that he's pulled out. And in fact, Baker is going to be under pressure from Phil Dinez in just a moment's time here, because Dinez has been, again, equally on a charge. And there he is. There's that looming BMW M4 GT3. And David Baker, it is a case of, well, try the best that you can, but right now he's on for some good points, is David, and especially after that first race where things didn't go his way, he needs those good points.
And remember, it might not be a battle for first place in this championship. McFarlane's second in race 1, looking good for another top 5 potentially here in race 2. It might be the battle for what becomes second in this championship, which is between Baker and Dinez. Coming into this one, it was 41 points separating these two drivers. Great result for Dinez in race number 1. Of course, Baker punted around in lap number 1, fought his way all the way back up into 19th position. How hard does he want to fight here? We're about to find out.
Not very is the answer there. Dinez got such a good run out of Le Mans, and Baker just slots in behind right now, and just get a little bit of free fuel saving from that car in front right now. And this is it. You've mentioned it time and again. If you can use the car in front to drag you along, that could actually help out David Baker. Max Wolf is the latest car onto pit road, along with Matt Turnbull as well. Josh Thompson on pit road, so he was up 30 positions when he came onto pit road, but of course pit cycle is still ongoing, so we'll have to wait and see once the whole field has been down pit road for their mandatory pit stop. You mentioned it, we are looking at around about that pit stop cycle time. We were about 12 minutes last race. I think we're going to be seeing pretty much everybody who hasn't pitted so far come onto pit road this time by.
Yeah, no, I would be shocked if anyone's not down this time around. It really would be some magic fuel saving going on, as Josh Thompson, I believe that was, who has just left pit lane, cycles himself out in 16. So incredible what Josh Thompson has done. I mean, fortunate as well that his wheel has been playing nice with him, at least in race number 2. He'll be heartbroken that it didn't do the same in race 1 when good points were clearly on the line. But for Davidson, we'll find out shortly. I would have to assume he's coming in this time around.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, because the leader is heading in towards Le Mans corner. It's very difficult to see where they are out on track, but fortunately for me, I do have a track map available, so I can see where he is. And heading down the Ullman Straight, we do expect to see him this time by. Of course, cooler air temperature means that the air is denser, you get more bang for your buck with the cooler temperatures. So yes, you do lose out a little bit in terms of the tyres, but you do make up for that with the fuel. And there you go, onto pit road. Alex Davidson, your race leader. I expect to see the rest of them come on down. Phil Dennis, David Baker, Billy Fletcher, Ross McFarlane, Michael Blake, Ross Nicholson, Chris Byram, Jason Dilworth, us as a pit stop as well in this whole thing. And there you see them on pit road right now. Now, is that a back marker, or is that somebody making a brave fuel set? I think that's a back marker actually working their way down pit straight, so we don't need to worry about that. Oh, who's that that's just got the pit stall wrong? Michael Blake, I think. Yeah, it does look like... no, it's... no, it was a free M car. Was that Ross McFarlane that got it all wrong? It was! Ross McFarlane, he's lost himself a ton of time there. Had to reverse in his pit stop. Who's that going to drop him behind? Wolf for sure. Is he going to be in front of Turnbull? Just behind. Maybe we'll see some team instructions come into play, but... Well, Turnbull's up there fighting as well, don't forget. But that's a shock. That is a shock to see someone like McFarlane make a mistake like that. It is, but it shows you the level of pressure going on out there and how easy it is to make a mistake on pit road. Here comes McFarlane then, looking to the inside of Turnbull. I think Turnbull said, you know what, you're the best shot at a championship, you go get him. Yeah, I would think so as well. There's no point risking a championship by fighting amongst each other. Dinez, 6 seconds behind Davidson now, so 10 minutes left on the clock. That's going to be proper fighting mode if he gets all the way forward. I would be shocked if the Californian can do that. In the AM Championship battle, it's interesting to see that Webster has cycled out in 11th, not far in front of Tom Stevens and Michael Blake, just a couple of positions down in that very same class. Yeah, certainly. In fact, Stevens and Blake battling over position right now. So those two battling out. We've got more fights going on. Mike Horder in 17th. He's battling away with Mark Woodhouse. So that contact that Woodhouse had, fortunately for him, it happened at Sunset Bend, so he could just jump straight down pit road and get that free repair done. So didn't lose out that much time, really, did Mark?
No, it worked out okay. I'm also trying to figure out where Hamilton is as Josh Thompson gets on past Paul Webster as well. Hamilton...
21st.
21st. For a second, I couldn't find him, and I was getting scared there because it would have been heartbreaking for him. He might have actually minimized the damage to his championship here. It's because 9 places between him and Webster, and never trust a commentator's math, but I'm going to make you have to trust my commentator's math. It would be about a 10 points difference between those 2 positions.
Yeah, so it's not the greatest amount of points there. That's the thing. Oh, that's Immortal car running wide. That was Mark Woodhouse. And well, if he didn't need a change of underpants after his contact earlier on, he'll definitely run after that, because that was almost a repeat of what happened earlier on.
Look at
there
that.
Again. That's Andy Shield taken to the grass and off. Meanwhile, Ross McFarlane's made a place up on Max Wolf whilst all of this is going on. It's just action all the way through this field. This is what you come to expect with the World GT Championship.
Just a shame that it's dark and it's very hard to figure out which car is which. Here's a look at what happened then to Woodhouse. Trying to go the long way around. That's not always going to work. Unfortunately for him, you can see that tire barrier juts back out onto track. That's what caught Neller out on the first lap of the race. Woodhouse, skin of his teeth there. Skin of his teeth to survive.
Certainly, as we're heading into that final 8 minutes. So as Shield makes the move to the inside, of course, one of your series admins is Andy Shield for that 3M outfit, the Pure Sims with 3M car, and he's working his way through with also behind him is Tim Perry in that 3 Spires Motorsport. So Tim Perry and Matt Woodhouse, you can't really separate them even after coming together earlier on. Just worth pointing out then, your top 3, Alex Davidson, Phil Dennis and David Baker, they're all your pros and they're all top 3. Billy Fletcher is your top Pro-Am, up 13 positions in 4th place. Your next Pro-Am is actually Max Wolf in 8th place. Brian Lyons is the 3rd place Am in 10th place. Your top Am driver, well, that's Paul Webster in 12th place now, and he finds himself just 1 position ahead of Tom Stevens, another Am driver. And then you've got this battle going on here. Michael Blake and Am, 3rd place in Am. Mike Horder, though, he is battling with Chris Van Der Ness in Pro-Am. Look at the 2 of them, neck and neck into turn number 1, and Horder in that Lamborghini, the boosted Virage car, moves ahead of the Evo SR outfit.
Does Van Der Ness think about the move to the inside? He tries to poke his nose, but Horder just last of the late breakers and holds on there. You mentioned, by the way, what was happening with Billy Fletcher up there in 4th. Wouldn't be shocked if he gets past for 3rd. He does get past for 3rd. Not sure what's happening up there. David Baker has reclaimed 3rd position. Sebring is putting on a show right now. Get the fireworks ready here on the night lights.
Yeah, it's going to be, and there are going to be fireworks as well. There's Fletcher. Oh, that's a bit ambitious, I think, is the word that I would use there for that one. But Baker able to nip back through. But of course, these 2 are slowing each other down and allowing Adam Watson to catch up, and Ross McFarlane and Matt Turnbull. McFarlane is dragging Turnbull along here. Oh, running a bit wide there for Billy Fletcher. The 2 Lamborghinis then, both with their endurance light pack on the front. You can tell that by the centre light that's on the front of it. And I can tell you further down, Horder, Van Der Ness and Blake, here we see them. They've been swapping positions. Horder and Van Der Ness are still fighting it out, but now it's 14th and 15th, and Blake, he wants to fight these, but really struggling.
On board with Mark Woodhouse, the side-by-side in front of him. Blake will get past Van der Ness. Woodhouse will try and follow in the second Immortal car. Is he going to pop it to the inside, heading to Sunset Bend? He's thinking about it. He is thinking about it behind him. The Ferrari of Andy Shield trying to get in on the fun as well. This is incredible stuff. 5 minutes left to go. I think these guys will be fighting for all of those 5 minutes.
And there's Tim Perry behind them in the Three Spires Motorsport BMW as well, joining in the fight here. So tremendous stuff here for the bottom end of your top 20. That's Andy Shield looking to the inside of of Woodhouse, should I say. Woodhouse is on the grass and the dirt. Still neck and neck. That Porsche's good on the initial braking, but there's the Ferrari on the inside. Now that is Michael Blake. What on earth has happened to him? And that was the Evo SR car as well. And I can tell you, Blake has been hit again, recovering, and I believe that the two of them, well, they're going at it at loggerhorns.
We cut away, but I have to assume that was an unsafe rejoin. If he got hit again, it ended in tears, but the show that they were putting on was incredible. Absolutely incredible fisticuffs action. Here's a look then to the outside onto the grass, and that's Van der Ness who spins around Blake. I can understand Blake's frustration, but watch here. Let's see the second bit of contact. Is it a bit of... that is returning fire the second time around, and well,
it's like two deers rutting, isn't it, right there?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to say right now, other than Van der Ness is going to be having to go visit the stewards, and I can understand their frustration at him. Yeah,
good luck with the race stewards. Try to calm those two down, by the way, because Michael can get a little bit fiery. I know that for a fact. We're going to spin her. We're going to spin her behind on the right hand side of the screen. No, that's not Blake.
No, that's Blake again. I promise you.
Are you sure that that's Blake? It must. Well, if it is, he's retired then. But
I promise you that it's Michael Blake. I am almost 99.9% sure. Maybe our producer Hugo Luis can help me out here. I think that was Michael Blake.
Yeah. With the fact that he's taking the tow back to the pits, yeah, that is for sure. Brian Lyons has gone off as well. So Blake, he must have damage. And the thing is, now that is once again Van der Ness behind. Now, does he do that all on his own? Or do the two of them come back together again to the inside Van der Ness? Blake's hit the grass, Van der Ness on the inside. And do the two of them make contact? No, they don't. So it's going to be Blake on his own then. There you go. Loses it on his own. He must have had damage from that initial contact.
Yeah, he must have been wheeling that car to keep it pointed straight, given how it snapped around on him there. That is frustration as well. He is going to be so angry right now. It's Paul Webster. This is crucial with Brian Lyons. These are valuable points in that amateur championship. Paul Webster can't afford to just let Lyons go on through, but he has to concede for now. Can he get the over-under out of Tower?
Well, Webster and Lyons, in race number 1, there was literally a 1/10 of a second separating them across the line. So these two, they know what it's like to fight each other. They even complimented each other on the epic battle that they had throughout race number 1. Race number 2, we're getting it once again. And, well, they often say that the sequel isn't as good as the original. Well, I don't know. These two are putting on a good show.
That's true in most cases, but I'd argue that Hot Fuzz was better than Shaun of the Dead, so I don't know if you can always say that. Here comes Webster, though, to the outside. This is that alternate line I was talking about. You can try and run wide, get the arc on the corner. Lyons is very nicely onto the power, though. Not going to be able to get the run for now is Webster, and Stevens behind is the next amateur car in line, so... For amateurs, it was looking promising, has not gone the way they would have wanted. This is Rose versus Thompson. Thompson, long way around turn number 1, shuts the door on Rose. What a drive it has been from Josh Thompson, all the way from the back, now running up there in 9th position.
29 places gained from Josh Thompson. Unbelievable from the Manxman. You got to say that Phil Dennis as well, up 18 positions. Billy Fletcher and Ross McFarlane up 13 positions as well. Tom Stevens, the AM, up 10 places in this race. Andy Shield up 24. It's been an incredible race. And Paul Webster and Brian Lyons, they're not finishing this battle either. They're still going at it neck and neck through the hairpin. Well, you can tell this is getting towards the end of the race. And in fact, this will be the last lap. Webster and Lyons, they can't be separated. But I'll tell tell you what, Alex Davidson is having a cracking race at the front. Webster giving space to Loynes. There's a little bit of a rub potentially there between the two of them, and Loynes ahead again.
What fun. And I'll be honest, the time was going away so quickly. I didn't even realize this was the final lap of the race. Loynes should be able to hold on, but into the final corner. What a drive from Alex Davidson.
Oh, well, David Baker's trying to go around the outside of Billy Fletcher to get third place, and he does. But we need to look forward, because there, on the right-hand side of your screen, he didn't quite get the win last time out at Suzuka, but tonight he is a race winner. Alex Davidson, the privateer, across the line, takes victory here in race number 2 of the World GT Championship from Sebring. And incredibly, Phil Dennis from 20th on the grid finishes 2nd place. David Baker, a tremendous 3rd place for him. Round the final corner, the battle's still ongoing between Webster and Loynes, and I think Loynes is just going to beat him to the line again. Incredible stuff here across the line, and it is Loynes who just gets Paul Webster at the line. Fantastic stuff. I can tell you there's also a battle. Ross Nicholson, Matt Woodhouse and Tim Perry going on out there. The fireworks are firing though for your race winner, Alex Davidson.
Fireworks on the track, fireworks in the air. Incredible. What the night made it so much more dramatic. I'm not sure I necessarily expected that. But after lap 1, where we saw calamity and chaos coming through Sunset Bend, these drivers put on a show. I'm sure Race Control is going to be a little bit busier than they would have wanted, but I'm sure they're going to enjoy watching this one back as well.
Yeah, so the final couple of cars will come across the line, and we will be able to give you your unofficial race results. But, well, that was breathtaking, absolutely sensational stuff. One driver though who had it all his own way in the second race was your winner, Alex Davidson, the privateer, 5.7 seconds ahead then in the end from Phil Dennis. Dennis, tremendous display from 20th on the grid up to 2nd. That's a brilliant drive from the California native. David Baker, 3rd place. That's really good news after his first race calamity to get himself that 3rd place. Billy Fletcher, then your top Pro-Am, 4th place by a 10th of a second across the line there. Adam Watson, 5th, ahead of Ross McFarlane. Only 0.3 of a second between those two across the line. Matt Turnbull just behind as well, with the 2nd place of your Pro-Am drivers, Max Wolf for Evo SR in 8th place. Josh Thompson, a little tip of the hat to him, 29 positions gained for him in the Free M by Williams in XBS competition car in 9th place, and Aaron Rose rounds out your top 10. Brian Loynes then in the Pro-Am car, 11th place overall, 3rd place in class. The SimStickers driver will be delighted with that, with once again a 10th of a second over Paul Webster. There's been nothing to separate those two, and of course Paul Webster, your Pro-Am winner in both races here tonight. That is a big moment and a big needle change for him in terms of his AM Championship. Tom Stevens though for Evo SR, 2nd place in AM and 13th place overall. Then Mike Horder for Boosted Virage. Andy Shield, good recovery drive for him in the Free M UK car in 15th. Ross Nicholson, Matt Woodhouse, Tim Perry. Ryan Hamilton, he started on pole position. He finishes 19th overall, 3rd place in AM, with Brendan Stacey running at the top 20. Andy Archer, James Whitehouse, the 2 Century Sim Esports drivers, are 21st, 22nd, ahead of James Dilworth. Tony Draper, Chris Byram, Craig Jones, Benjamin Gregory, it was a bit of a recovery drive from him, really. Then John Roberts, Alex Neller, and Chris Van Der Ness, who we saw getting tangled up with Michael Blake towards the end of the race. Adam Hedgecock then 31st, ahead of Jonathan Walker with Toby Ward. Michael Evdoka 1 lap down in 34th place, who got caught up in that instant at the end of lap 1. Michael Blake 2 laps down in the end. Well, that was really unbelievable for him at the end there. Christian Rose, Chris Wood, Jeroen Kaiser, and Elliot Harper all finish off the leads laps, and in fact do not do not finish this race. But Alex Davidson, tremendous drive from him, Arjuna, to take victory in the second race of the evening.
Once he took the lead, he never looked back, never even had any worries in that race. Incredible drive from him. Incredible as well that, from what I understand, Paul, 1 point is all that separates our AM championship leaders. You said it's going to come down to the wire. I don't think we expected it to be one solitary point. It's all on the line. Remember, that last race weekend cannot be dropped from the points totals. You have to deliver with the pressure on in Monza.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely tremendous. You will not want to miss that next week, because that was simply sensational here tonight. But, well, it's looking at this here. I mean, Alex Davidson, tremendous drive. Phil Dennis, simply sensational. It really was. David Baker, third. The AMs again delivering here for this one. We are going to get a quick word with a few of your drivers. Arjuna, why don't you take it away with race 1 winner and runner-up in race number 2, Philip Dennis.
It's my fellow California native, Phil Denez. Phil, first off, congratulations for race number 1, and then what a drive in race 2 to charge your way up the field through second. How comfortable did you feel in this M4 here at Sebring?
It's funny, I actually was scrambling for the setup right before the first race, and I think I managed to find a pretty good one. I think I was running maybe a little bit less wing than everyone else, which was a big advantage, I think, in the second race. Even in the first race, clearly Ross had a lot more pace than I did in the midfield, but just down the straight, he had nothing for me, and even in the draft, he just couldn't get close enough, and I think that was a really big gain for me today.
Well, what it does mean is with Ross's consistent finishes here heading into Monza, it doesn't necessarily look like you're close enough to fight for the championship. It's going to have to be a pretty tough day for Ross to make that a possibility. But second, it's now between you and David Baker. How comfortable do you feel going to Monza, where this was chaotic? I don't know how much you saw of the chaos, especially in race 1, given that you were all the way at the front. But Monza is going to be incredible. I mean, lap 1, turn 1, and you have to do that 3 different times. Survive the carnage at Monza.
Yeah, all the people fighting for the championship, even Ross, they're going to have to play it really smart. Race 1, I assume, will go as normal. You know, everyone's going to line up in the train with the fast guys up front, and it's going to string out. But when it comes to race 2 and 3, you're going to have to be really smart, and I think the safest and most consistent driver is going to come out on top. And I don't think Ross is extremely comfortable with the championship yet either.
And I do have to ask you before we let you go, Phil. First time in the World GT Championship for you, and you're in it with a smorgasbord team, 3M by Williams Inex BS Plus. What's it been like having Josh Thompson and Jack Sedgwick as your teammate? Not by any means your traditional teammates here in iRacing.
Yeah, well, you know, of course we don't leak each other info, because we help each other out a little bit, but not with setup, because we are on different teams, so that's kind of the rule. But it's been a lot of fun. They're a great group of guys and, you know, great drivers. I think it's been a solid team. And Josh struggled a little bit. I mean, he had the wheel issue in race 1. I'm hoping that, you know, Jack and Josh come out for the Monza race, and we can try and claim that team championship.
Congratulations on your win and your charge through the field, Phil. Looking forward to seeing you in action in 7 days' time at Monza.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Oh. Well, that was Phil Dennis then, who took the win in race number 1 and second place in race number 2. And, well, joined now by Josh Thompson, because Josh, I mean, you had the heartbreak of what happened in race 1. You were having a really good race up there in that front pack, and things were going your way, but then you just couldn't select gear, and before you know it, you're heading towards the wall.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I thought I had a bit of an issue in qualifying. Like, it didn't shift into hairpin, but I just thought it was over a bump or something. Like, sometimes you get, like, shift protect. Then from, like, lap 5... it started happening like once a lap or something like that. It was just where it just frees into a random gear. Normally anyway, like mid-straight, like 3rd or 4th area is quite bad. So that was not ideal at all, but it obviously got worse and worse through the race. I think it got to a point where, like, before the pit stop, I was having to do it like 2 or 3 times, and it was just getting crazy. And then on the back straight after the pit lane, after the pit stop, just it fully seized up. Tried to unplug, plug it back in 2 or 3 times, and just nothing. Just stuck in third the entire time. So yeah, I wasn't particularly happy because I've had this before in Porsche, so not ideal.
Yeah, it's certainly not ideal, that's for sure. But then second race, you rock up, you're at the back of the grid. It's a bit of a back-to-front challenge, really, wasn't it, for you? Tremendous display, 29 places gained.
It wasn't particularly ideal and straightforward, though, because obviously, like I said, I had a spare cable. There was 2 cables in the box, because I, for some reason, kept the old one. And I managed to put the other cable, what was broken from Porsche, back on. So in practice, it was okay. I got to the start, it was like, okay, lap 2, instantly started doing the exact same thing again. Just started locking up. I'm like, I put the old cable, because I had 2 cables. And yeah, and I said I had time to test both. I just had to go with one of them and hope for the best. So that wasn't ideal. And then because I was unplugging it and plugging it back into PC that many times, it then decided to like completely toast my PC to the point I was driving around at 60 FPS at most, stuttering and having static sound. So that wasn't ideal. So it wasn't a particularly nice race, but I'm just glad I got it to the end, to be honest.
A piece of advice for you: if you got a dodgy cable, throw it.
I don't know why I kept it. I think I was supposed to send it back to Precision, but I never had time. So they look both brand new in the box. So.
Well, anyway, I mean, you've obviously been focusing on the Porsche Tag Heuer Contender Series, so that's why we've not seen you quite as much as we would have normally. But next week, Monza, 3 sprint races. How do you see all that going?
I think Monza's going to be interesting. I think that might be the first time I might have nothing on just to focus for. Like, I don't have to take Porsche serious this weekend. It's a bit more of fun because obviously I qualified last week overall for next season. So obviously it gives me a bit more freedom for next week. Hopefully I can fix this wheel in time. That might be ideal.
That'd be a start.
that might be a good start. But no, Monza, I don't know. Like, obviously there's a title contention still on like that for some people, but obviously I'd kind of like a win. I think this is the longest I've gone in a World GT season without actually racking up a win in any format, be it sprint, endurance, or anything. So it'd be kind of nice to have a win to say like this season the pace has been there in some of them. So have to wait and see. But I've got nothing to lose. So.
Well, Josh, thank you very much as always. Pleasure to speak to you, and well done on the recovery drive at least in race number 2.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
And of course, we will speak to Billy Fletcher then, and Billy, Luxem24 Esports. What a performance for your cars, and what a performance from yourself here in Pro-Am. Another Pro-Am win here. You really seem to like Sebring.
I do. I've been looking forward to Sebring all week, and it couldn't come around fast enough. Put a fair bit of time into practice, had a little bit of help this week from the Apex guys, and really found a sweet spot with the car, and we had good pace. So yeah, it was good fun. Really enjoyed the racing.
Well, I mean, it all started off in qualifying, getting that 3rd row of the grid, which you must have been thinking, right, we're in for a good day at the office here for Luxem. But it wasn't as easy as it looked out there, was it? It was really hard-fought stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the first race, obviously I had Elliott behind me, and I've had a touch pace advantage on him through the day, like through testing and that. I couldn't hang on to the top 4. They were just too fast. You know, I hung on to them for about 3 laps, and it was just like, I'm going to end up burying this car in the wall somewhere. I kind of concentrated on managing the gap back to Elliott. I tried saving a lot of fuel when Elliott was behind me. Then when Adam got ahead of Elliott, I know Adam's very aggressive and very fast, so I kind of pulled the pin a bit, and I just managed to pull a gap out, but it wasn't easy. That was 110% for literally 40 minutes in that first race.
And of course, I mean, looking at the championship as a whole, we've got the final round at Monza coming up. I mean, you're in 3rd place in the Pro-Am, 118 points off of Mike Horder going into that final round. Obviously, this is before any penalties get applied from this week, but you're still in with an outside chance of getting that Pro-Am championship.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a great start to the season, so it's been a bit of a fight back through the season. And Zuka, I really hobbled myself when I got a speeding penalty on my last pit stop. We were running sort of top 15. We may have got Horder that race, and then I got a black flag on my last stop. That sort of hobbled our progression a little bit, but I think Horder's a bit too out of reach. He's too consistent, and I've let the gap's too big. Basically, once you let Horder get that far ahead, you ain't catching him again. You know, he'll be like Ash Sutton, you could say, in British Touring Cars this season. Might not be winning all the races, but he always pumps the points in, and there at the ends. And Monza's going to be really hard work. 3 20-minute races are going to be hectic.
It certainly is. Well, all the best for next week, Billy, and hopefully we'll get to see some top action from you again.
Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you next week.
So, Arjuna, as we wrap things up here, I mean, if you want the drama and excitement of a Monday evening, this is the place to be, wasn't it?
It was incredible, and really sets up next week and the 3 sprint races that we've got. I really hope we get the full reverse grid, and it's just going to shake things up. Again, you can't drop that points total from the championship, so it's all on the line. Who delivers under the pressure? Consistency can get you to the point of winning a championship here, but ultimately you've got to make sure you're ready, you're there at the front when it counts.
Absolutely. So next week you will not want to miss it. Monza next week, Monday evening at 8 p.m. UTC. Of course, the clocks in the UK change at the weekend, but there you see it. The cathedral of speed when it comes to European race tracks. And my goodness, it's steeped in history. Have tremendous memories of many championship finales around that venue, and certainly it will give us some really exciting action. But Arjuna, thank you so much for joining us, stepping into Peter's shoes this week, because unfortunately Peter was unavailable. Thank you so much for helping out today, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
I loved it, and hopefully Peter's not around next week so I can slot in as well.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. But for myself, Paul Smith, Arjuna Kankupati on commentary, Hugo Luis behind the scenes here for RaceSpotTV. We have 1 week remaining of the World GT Championship Season 10 of this series, brought to you by FreeM. You will not want to miss it. Same time, same place, RaceSpotTV, Monday night. Goodbye.